And how's about we check out on some of these values? What are some of the values that Carney advocates for in his book? What do they look like as policies and actions by a government? Let's see if we can get a simple breakdown of that. So, Mark Carney's book Values advocates for 7 core values as foundations for governance: dynamism, resilience, sustainability, fairness, responsibility, solidarity, and humility. My god, how could you go against any of that? Anybody that disagrees with that is actually a fucking bigot. Bro, you hate sustainability? You're a fucking racist, bro. The point that I'm making there is that he's taking lukewarm semi-poetic words and language to make it sound like this is something meaningful, but really it just seems like fucking PR mumbo jumbo. Like, really, does he actually believe in these things? These are his values as foundations for governance? Humility? Really? Humility? This guy's humble? This guy advocates for humility? Let me show you a clip. Let me show you a fucking clip, all right? This is legendary. This is levels of humility I cannot comprehend.
Says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail.
Okay, let me find the full question. Let me see if I can find that. Here it is.
Hi, Nujidam Malise, Globe and Mail. My colleagues have a story today about a Liberal candidate's relations with China-friendly groups and a meeting that you also held with a pro-Beijing group. So my question is, why did you meet with this pro-Beijing group, Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada? And is the party okay with the fact that Liberal candidate Peter Yan has been so close with the Chinese consulate and China-friendly groups, given the public inquiry into foreign interference, says that this is a tactic China uses to exert influence?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group. Certainly didn't have a set-up meeting with this group. Full stop. So check your sources before you write things like that, okay? Or your colleagues do. I'm a politician. I go to events where there are hundreds and thousands over the course of a day of different people there. That is not a meeting. If somebody happens to be in the room and takes a picture with me, that's not a meeting, okay? First point. Secondly, with respect to Mr. Yun, this is a person who has served his community for decades. This is a person who's deputy commissioner of the police, okay? A person in discharge of those responsibilities meets with a variety of community groups in the community because that's his job. That's his responsibility. We're proud to have him as a candidate, and I honor his service, including on today. Thank you.
Okay, so the Canadian Liberal Party had a guy in Carney's team as the guy who replaced Paul Chiang, who, for those that don't know, this is a story where a Canadian member of parliament, Paul Chiang, let me see if I can find it. Of course it's going to be on Twitter. I can find it better on Twitter than I can on any fucking search engine, of course. What? Why can't I look up this term? What the fuck? What? Hold on. Okay, something's wrong with that. What? Do I have the VPN on? No, the VPN is off, so why can't I... Okay, that's very strange. Why can't I find anything on Paul Chiang? Okay, that's weird. Look at Twitter. Is this it? Is this the clip? Have we found the clip?
The other person that's running, most probably is, you know, the Chinese community knows, Zhou Te, Zhang Jing, right? He is looking for the nomination. The Chinese media knows him. He was in the media business in Hong Kong, and here in Canada, he's a radio host, or I don't know, for Singtel Media or so it's Fairchild. He was a media person, so that's all he did all his life. But also right now, he is wanted by the Chinese government, and there's a $1 million reward on his head. So they want, if you guys want to pick him up and take him to the Chinese consulate, you make him $1 million. I'm just joking, but there is a...
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my god, dude, that's so funny. A political candidate advocating another political candidate get abducted to a Chinese consulate to pick up $1 million reward on his head. That's so funny. Dude, we make jokes like that in Canada all the fucking time. Dude, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. What the actual fuck? So anyways, this guy, Paul Chiang, makes this statement and on the weekend, on like a Sunday or something, which, Jesus, how fucking stupid do you have to be to speak like this out in public? Like, you're in the middle of a fucking election, and this is the joke that you make. This is nuts. Like, of all the things you could have said, you could have just kept your fucking mouth shut. Insane. This guy just thinks you could fucking get away with saying like that. So, that happens, right? And Carney, the leader of the party, who is responsible for who is on the campaign and who isn't, and he has the authority, or at least the sway, to get people off the campaign, he's asked about this. He's asked about this the next day, right? And this is what Carney said.
Paul Chiang, one of your candidates in Markham, talked about turning over a conservative candidate to the Chinese consulate to receive a bounty placed on him by the Chinese Communist Party. Can you explain why you've not dropped him as a Liberal candidate?
Thank you for the question. Look, the comments were deeply offensive. This is a terrible lapse of judgment by Mr. Chiang. He has apologized for those comments. He has apologized directly now to the person that he mentioned. Apologized directly to him yesterday. I've spoken to Mr. Chiang as well over the course of the weekend to understand his position. He is a veteran policeman. Mr. Chiang is a veteran policeman with more than a quarter century of service to his community. 28 years of defending rights in this community, and he will continue with his candidacy going forward, having made those apologies very clearly to the individual, to the community, and moving forward to serve.
So that's what our prime minister says. A member of his party outrightly states, like, he's not yelling angrily at it, and he's not actually like on a megaphone standing on a soapbox, Paul Chiang. I mean, he was saying it and he was laughing at it, but like, it's not really all that funny if the bounty is actually real and the Chinese government is out to get him, and you're kind of like, you're advocating for that. Like, that's not something that you can make light of without people looking at you and thinking that you have some kind of allegiances to Beijing. And then the leader of the party refuses to kick him off. And then when he does kick him off, eventually, because Jesus fucking Christ, how do you not... Like, we just had a foreign interference scandal where it was found that China was actively working to collude with members of parliament that are still, as far as I know, I guess up until today, if they lose their seats in the election, that are working, continuing to work on the Canadian dollar. We still don't have their fucking names. That he was advocating that his opponent be taken to, as far as I'm concerned, a rogue state, an enemy state, that is placing bounties on Canadians' heads. And then you don't replace him. So eventually he does, right? Eventually Carney does. And he replaces him. The man that he replaces him is found to be, has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. And when Carney is asked about this, that the guy that he replaced with him is even more deeply entrenched in China's politics than the guy before, he says to check your sources. He has the arrogance to tell the Globe and Mail reporter, a liberal-leaning newspaper, mind you. These are not fucking conservatives. Okay, they're not bucking for Polyev. They're not. They're very liberal. You can tell with their coverage. It's an open secret that the Globe and Mail is liberal. As is their right. I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying that that's a fact. People know this. This is a commonly understood fact among people that have read it or know of the paper. And they're asking Carney, how can you allow this? And he says, you can't believe everything that the Globe and Mail writes. What? This is exemplified by his foundations of governance? Humility? Which one is this? Is this solidarity? I guess it's solidarity. Is it responsibility? Not really. Fairness? I guess he's fair to both of his corrupt, potentially Chinese-tied candidates. Sustainability? Yeah. It's a fairly sustainable practice. He could just keep recycling the same arguments over and over again. Resilient? Oh, it's really resilient. It's kept him in power. And dynamism? Oh, boy, is it dynamic. So you know what? I was wrong. These things, these characteristics here that Carney outlined, that incident matches all of them except humility. So that's, you know what? Maybe that's okay. Maybe I'm actually wrong about that. So this guy that purports to embody these characteristics, or at least sees them as important to his form of governance, that's how he acts when a foreign country is trying to interfere in your election and one of your party members references it as a joke. If any of the conservatives did anything close to that, there would be wall-to-wall coverage, and it would be talked about nonstop. Just like this. For those that don't know, Carney was at a rally, and he recently did one of these. Whoa! That's fucking crazy. What's that? Is that a Nazi salute? Holy shit. Holy shit. Now I wonder if anyone covered it. I wonder if anyone covered it. Wow. Interesting. The only news story from Global News is from a month ago. Everything's from a month ago. Now, okay, fine. And then none of the news stories are actually about the salute that he did. Now, let's say Elon Musk salute. The Guardian, The Independent, NPR, Global News, BBC, The Conversation, New York Times, NDTV, whatever the fuck that is, Latin Times, Forbes, Forbes India, MSN, USA Today, CBC. Bro, what is this shit? Are you serious? CBC Musk Nazi salute. Let me blow up the photos in real time. So you want to tell me, right? Where's the CBC? Where's the fucking photo? Here. Wow, that's so different. What they're doing is so different, dude. That's so fucking crazy. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. You're right, Carney. That's not a Nazi salute at all, dude. Look at this. No. I can prove it. I can actually prove it, guys. Hold on. I can actually prove it. Check it out. Now, if you carefully look at the angle of the salute, right? Musk's is clearly sharper. Look at that. Look at that red line test. Look at that. His salute is not nearly as sharp. It does not meet the threshold. Where's that? Hold on. There's that. There's a Nazi salute meter that we can use to actually figure this out. Hold on. Here it is. Hold on. All right. Okay. We found the expert. We found the expert on this. Okay, so that's petting the dog. That's petting children. That's calling a taxi. Now this whole range. Oh shit, dude. This whole range is Nazi. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Somebody has to tell Carney. This is not good. This is not good. This is not. I mean, it's clearly not lateral. Look, I mean, it clearly does not pass the line test. Lateral would be like this. And look at that hand. Oh my god. If we go all the way up, dude, it's almost at a 45 degree. Holy shit. He's literally doing it. This one's not even at 45 degrees. Whereas Musk, right? Let's check this out. Musk actually, dude, he fucking, yo, hats off to him. Musk is actually based. He hit the 45 degree angle, the perfect Nazi salute. Carney has a lot to learn from Musk, and honestly, I hope this election teaches him a lesson because he really needs to step up his saluting. This is nuts, dude. This is crazy. Bro, revelations are happening. My almonds are getting activated. This is fucking crazy. Is it cynical for me to joke about this in this way? Yeah, but Jesus fucking Christ, if the news coverage doesn't make me cynical. I mean, not a single news story on Carney's salute. And this happened when? When did this happen? The 27th. It was just yesterday. I understand there's more important things to talk about. We're literally right before an election. We're literally like the day of the election, the night of the election. I understand that. But if you're going to give the same airtime to Musk, why? Like, somebody that's not even a political leader. Somebody that has political capital, but he's not actually running to be the fucking leader of anything. Meanwhile, Carney is, and he gets away with this. Like, what sense does that make? I don't understand. Musk's Nazi salute received wall-to-wall coverage for weeks, and not a single peep. Nobody. Not a single person talking about this. Mark Carney salute April 27th, 2025. Let's get fucking grainy. Anything in the news? Anything? Nothing. There's no news. Nobody. Nobody's talking about this. None of the news. And I understand that this photo might be taken out of context. It could just be a flash second. But the point is, so was this. And this was misconstrued as some great signal that Musk is a Nazi, which is a ludicrous fucking opinion to have. That's crazy. He's autistic. He's autistic, and he literally said, my heart goes out to you. And anybody that thinks otherwise, I'm sorry, but you have Musk derangement syndrome. There's no other way to put it. If you think in any way, shape, or form Musk shares the ideology of Nazism, I would invite you to actually read Mein Kampf and understand what Nazism means. Because I feel like you just played Call of Duty once or saw fucking Inglourious Bastards, and you think anybody that does the salute is an automatic Nazi, which is a low-level way of thinking about this problem. I mean, incredible. The fact that this isn't getting any coverage at all, nobody's talking about it. No, the CBC hasn't come out and said, oh my God, what a blunder, what a political blunder to be caught in a photo like that, or even to say this is nowhere near the same as Musk. Like, any level of commentary would have been great, but nothing. Nobody said anything about this. It's just out on Twitter. Like, great. That's great. So let's check in with the coverage, because it looks like, holy shit, they're fucking neck and neck. And I don't know if this is projected or what, but let's take a look and see what the CBC is saying.
Really a liberal reign for all times.
No.
At some point, the seeds of change will come back, and they might have a better chance to bloom.
Yeah, and liberals probably shouldn't assume that either. Andrew, and then Althea.
The one thing I think we should be looking for is not just, will they get over the majority, will BC put them over the top, but also how will the Liberals do in Western Canada? One of the things people have been very worried about, some people, is will another Liberal victory cause Westerners, and some Westerners anyway, to give up on Canada? I should note that the numbers coming in BC and Alberta are looking pretty close to what the polling numbers were suggesting, and the polling numbers are saying the Liberals are going to do better, at least in the popular vote in those provinces, better than they have since 1968. So that should hopefully dampen down some of the sort of attempts to portray this as the West being shut out yet again.
We'll see. Last word to you, Althea.
Just a few things. So on that is something that the Liberals were quite concerned about, which is why Mr. Carney spent the last day going to Saskatchewan, going to Alberta to make that case, hoping to grab seats that they otherwise did not have. I think it's not a thing about democracy if there are no parties, smaller parties in the House. I think it's just, if the balance of power is the Bloc Québécois, it is an opening for the Conservatives to say that it's an illegitimate coalition, much like they did in 2008, which basically means that we will have another election.
But it's not a coalition. It's just one party helps another, right?
Right, but they framed the last supply and confidence agreement as a coalition.
The
just
Bloc
because
isn't about to sign the supply and confidence agreement
of course
with anyone.
not. They will do issue by issue as they always have, as they have always communicated. But that will not stop the Conservative Party from framing it in that way.
Right.
And I think it will make it very difficult, especially if Mr. Poilievre remains the Conservative leader, because I don't see areas where, although there actually are lots of policy areas where they could get together, I don't see the personalities leading to cooperation in the House of Commons, which basically just means that we will have an election, if it is a minority government and the Bloc has a balance of power, either later this year or next year.
But at that level, if the NDP doesn't even need official party status, it can have a share of the balance of power. Let's agree that we are not yet in those scenarios where the Bloc was going to become the official opposition, and then I was going to hold a knife to the throat of the government. That's not what's happening.
No,
I got to get to David Cochrane here. He's got some stuff from the 905.
Well, look, this is part of the reason why we are where we are. You see the Liberal number actually retreating a little bit. Right now, they are only at 65 seats in Ontario. They are down 10, down 11, and we're going to look at the Greater Toronto area, and this gives you a sense of where we are right now. So you can see here, Mississauga is blue, Brampton is blue, another Brampton is blue. So Peel region has been
Brampton is blue.
At this point.
Who would have thought?
This is the gate that they need to break down and get closer to the downtown part of Toronto if they're going to make it more of a game at the top line numbers, but certainly in Ontario. And the Liberals are having a little bit of a struggle, at least at this hour of the night. Similar story, there we go, in Vaughan Woodbridge. This is a Conservative-held seat. Thornhill, that's Melissa Landsman. But York Centre, this is another Liberal seat that is blue at the moment. And in Richmond Hill, Aurora, Oak Ridge is a Newmarket, Aurora. York region and Peel region. The Liberals felt pretty good about Peel region. There was some top-line polling suggesting that it was tightening up there.
All right, that's enough of that. I don't need to hear any of their fucking coverage. Yeah, if you guys want to listen to some actual political pundit, I would encourage you go watch the actual coverage. You'll hear plenty of talking heads that have much smarter shit to say than I do. I'm just trying to give a more I don't know, rounder perspective on these scandals. Because look, whatever you say about Pierre Poilievre, I don't think he goes enough in a lot of respects. I don't think that there's enough talk about deportation for the millions of work permits for all these temporary visas that we have in Canada. I don't think that there's enough talk about enacting punishments on these fake diploma mill colleges that have accepted hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from people coming from India or elsewhere, trying to just simply skate by on some weird geography major or whatever the fuck, just so that they can come to Canada for an opportunity. I don't think there's enough talk about that. I don't think there's enough talk about what the government did during COVID and how there should at the least be an investigation in terms of what could be done right. I'm not even asking for people's heads to roll. I'm just asking for some clarity in terms of what we can do for the next pandemic, because ultimately, if we're talking about building a solution and learning from mistakes, I feel like that's a pretty good place as any to start. And I haven't really heard anything about that. There's quite a few things that I disagree with him on, but at the end of the day, if Carney is this corrupt, and he literally worked for an organization that set up tax havens, which he actively did. Like, let me fact check that. Did Carney work to complete work that involved transferring funds into tax havens? Which, look, I understand that that's how the world works. I'm not a retard. I get it. I'm well familiar with the realistic perspective that, like, bad, or not bad shit, that bad people are going to do shit, but that there are nefarious means or borderline illegal means that rich people use to escape taxes. And I bet if I was rich enough, I would give that a consideration, because why the fuck would I pay more government taxes when I could pay less, and I could afford somebody to actually do all the legal filings and all that to actually make it happen? I'm sure it would be a consideration that I have. I don't know how I would act in that same problem, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I wouldn't want, like a part of me wouldn't want to take advantage of that. I'm sure plenty of us would be tempted with that opportunity if we had hundreds of millions of dollars to our name, and we didn't want to just give it to a government. And here, Carney. During his tenure as chair of Brookfield Asset Management from 2022 to 2025, Mark Carney oversaw funds and corporate entities registered in tax havens like Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. While he did not personally transfer funds, the structures he managed utilized offshore jurisdictions criticized for enabling tax avoidance. So this is his record. This is like him coming out on stage and talking about in these debates, I know how the world works. I know how global economies work. Meanwhile, he's doing shit like this in his last 3 years there that we at least know of. For example, in Bermuda, Carney co-chaired 2 green transition funds totaling $25 billion, registered under entities like BGTF Bermuda GP Limit. Jesus fucking Christ. These structures allowed investors to benefit from Bermuda's tax-neutral status, no corporate income tax, while complying with international tax treaties. Cayman Islands, a $5 billion fund, Arctic Transition Fund, and over a dozen Brookfield entities were registered at Eugland House, a notorious tax haven addressing housing 18,000 shell companies. Now look, like I said earlier, I'm not blind to this. I understand that people do this, and this is a reality of our world. But somebody who operates in that world shouldn't be at the fucking levers of power as the prime minister. I don't think that that's a controversial statement to make either. I feel like that's pretty fucking coherent. Why would you put somebody like that in power? I don't want somebody like that in power. Somebody that knows how to actively game and cheat the system, and they were incentivized to do that? I'm supposed to trust that kind of a person? What? And like I said, to start this whole thing off, say what you want about Pierre Poilievre. Say what you want about him. Say what you want about any of these other leaders. Pierre Poilievre is the only person that has some kind of a semblance of a vision that says, hey, these last 10 years didn't need to happen. They didn't need to happen, and they need to be stopped. These people need to be stopped because they're just going to keep pressing their advantage. Carney wrote it in how's about we go back to what he said in his fucking book? Carbon pricing. Initially supported carbon taxes, but pivoted to scrapping them in 2025 to address affordability concerns. This carbon tax, they yelled from the rooftops about for years, saying that if we didn't have it, the fucking oceans would boil. And in the first day of his office, Carney wipes it out. The consumer-facing one. Not the business-facing one, but the consumer-facing one. So that individuals that go to that go to fuel their cars at the pump feel a little bit less of an ass raping. Just a smidge less, like still getting raped, but just a smidge less. They decided to lube up this time instead of just going all in and raping your fucking wallet. Just in time for an election, by the way. This guy gets into power, and the first thing he does is he removes the tax that his party has been campaigning on for the better part of a decade, and has been defending vehemently by saying that because the conservatives are against it, therefore they hate the country and they want it to burn. Let me see if I can find that clip. If you guys think I'm sensationalizing this, this is absolutely true. I think it was Mark Miller. I believe it was Mark Miller. Where's his road trip? Where's his road trip comment? Wow, what a funny coincidence. I can't find it on YouTube anywhere, but I guarantee you I'm gonna find it on Twitter. Whoa, that was tits. That was not safe for work. Hold on. I'm sure I'll find it here. Hold on. Because this was an infamous statement. Because Pierre Poilievre said that we should remove the carbon tax, and Mark Miller said, if we remove it, then people won't be able to go on family road trips because they'll be fucking dead or some shit. Let me find it, because this is a legendary clip. Where is it? Come on. No, this is just federal ministers. No. I don't need that. There is a clip of him in Parliament. I want to see Mark Carney. There's a clip of him in Parliament where he's debating Pierre Poilievre about carbon taxes. Is this it? No. This is him and Trudeau. Actually, you know what? This might be good enough. Let's play this.
Taxes up, costs up, crimes up, time's up. And now he wants a 300% carbon tax hike, all the way up to 61 cents a liter. Why not let Canadians choose a common sense conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime now?
Here's the news flash for the conservative leader. Climate change costs money, and what would cost the most money to Canadians at all is his do-nothing climate plan. If the opposition had spent any time listening to Canadians over the summer, he would have heard that they need solutions. They need answers to the challenges they're facing. That's not what he's offering. Indeed, he doesn't care about Canadians. He just cares about himself and his own political interest.
He doesn't care about Canadians because he doesn't want to tax them. Trudeau's right. Pierre doesn't care enough Canadians to tax them. Dude, he's so right. Holy shit, he's right. He's so fucking right, dude. God, I'm so glad that fucking Trudeau was gone. Where is that? I gotta be able to find this clip, because at the time it was a legendary clip. Mark Miller, carbon tax. I like how they also named it carbon pricing. I love that they named it carbon pricing. No, that is not it. Oh, come on, man. How is this not showing up? Is this it? Oh, fucking TikTok.
The health minister went into a wacko rant accusing parents who take their kids on a road trip of locking them up
Here we go.
For 10 days straight without a washroom break, causing the whole world to burn. Unbelievable. All because we proposed that the government take taxes off gas so that Canadians could have a summer break.
I was wrong, and I admit it. It wasn't 37,000 kilometers. It was 44,000 kilometers to get the benefit that they're talking about. And what they want to do is cut not only dental care, not only cut child care, not only cut pharmacare, but end our climate action and return to the days when the Conservative Party would go into climate conferences and attack the action the world was taking to save our planet. I will stand for climate change, and so will this party, Mr. Speaker.
My mistake.
Last week,
It was not Mark Miller. That's why I couldn't find it. It was Holland. Oh, okay. If I look up Holland road trip, god damn it. What's his name? Mark Holland. Here we go. This is it. This is great. This is a fucking great clip. All-timer right here.
Honourable member from Lethbridge.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal government is not worth the hunger and homelessness that it's causing so many Canadians across this country. Many Canadians just simply look forward to a small summer vacation, a road trip perhaps. It's normally a time where they can go and camp in the mountains or go to a national park or visit loved ones. But this year, many Canadians can't afford this simple delight because this government has made life too expensive. On Monday, this House will have the opportunity to vote on a common sense motion to save Canadians 35 cents per litre on gas. Will the Prime Minister vote with us, the common sense Conservatives, so that Canadians can afford a simple vacation, or will he force them to stay home?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, good news, kids. You can take a summer fun time vacation where you're locked in a car for 10 consecutive days, nonstop with no bathroom breaks, and the Conservatives have a plan for you to have that summertime fun. And the cost? Give up the future of the planet, right? Don't worry, kids, about climate change. Don't worry about taking action on the planet. Enjoy your 10 hours in the car and let the planet burn.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, what did you just say? Look, I get it. Parliament is a place where people sensationalize shit. The whole point is to get sound bites. You're just flinging insults back and forth at one another, and you're hoping that something sticks. And then if it does stick, you keep attacking the line or whatever the strategy is for this kind of stuff. Because I see it as a spectator. I don't actually know what the strategy is. But I would imagine that you want to emphasize on pain points. And you want to emphasize on things that are viral, especially in this day and age. And so what his argument against the carbon tax, his main thing, not against the carbon tax, but against the Conservative motion to make it cheaper for people to buy gas, to create a slight exemption in the carbon tax so that people aren't getting as raped at the pumps as they are. His reaction to that is make fun of the fact that Canadian families like road trips. 10 hours in the car, 10 days in the car. What is he talking about? What? Road trips are gonna cause climate change to the point where the rivers boil and the world ends? What is this sensationalism? This is par for the course for what happened. Dude, this came out in this was 10 months ago, but this was during the 44th Parliament in 2024. This is only a year ago. This is what Trudeau's Liberals did. This is the kind of people they had. Mark Holland, who I don't even know if he's still in power. Minister of Health, in office till March 14th, 20... Wow, he stepped down. Oh my goodness. What a surprise. Wow. Wow. Legend. Legend, that guy. Let's take a look at another great hit. Mark Miller on Trudeau. Or sorry, on immigration. Mark Miller was the immigration minister. Let's see this. Mark Miller on immigration. Let's see what he talked about with the student visas. This is a good one. This is a good one.
Generally speaking, Generally speaking, if someone were on a student visa, would there be criminal record checks?
Yes.
There would be?
Yeah. The reality is that on every student that comes through the student streams, other than the US, we do biometrics. Those biometrics go through a database and we check. We do take a risk profile of the people that we ask or that come to this country, like any temporary resident, whether...
Generally speaking, if
So he states that they do have background checks for these people, including international students. And here it is. I can confirm that Hardeep Singh Nijjar became a Canadian citizen on March 3rd, 2015. I hope this dispels the baseless rumor that he was not a Canadian. Mr. Nijjar became a Canadian citizen on May 25th, 2007, earlier than I stated below. The error in dates is my responsibility to assume. Again, nothing justifies the killing of Mr. Nijjar. Now, who was Mr. Nijjar, you may ask? He was a Canadian Sikh activist and figure of the Khalistan movement. He was alerted by Canadian security service officials of a likely assassination plot against him. According to his son, he had been meeting with CSIS officers once or twice a week in the days before his killing and had another meeting scheduled 2 days after he was killed. They warned him of threats to his life and advised him to stay at home. On 18th of June 2023, he was shot and killed in his pickup truck by 2 masked gunmen in the parking lot of the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia. He walked out of the Gurdwara that evening and was gunned down approximately 2 minutes later, hit by 34 bullets. The gunmen fled the scene by foot into a waiting car that sped away. Investigators said that the 2 gunmen in the getaway car driver had lain in wait for at least an hour before the murder. His death is being investigated by the RCMP's Integrated Homicide Investigation Team. Video footage and witness accounts compiled by the Washington Post show a coordinated attack involving at least 6 men and 2 vehicles. And I noted that the police were slow to respond. The RCMP and Surrey police argued over jurisdiction, and local businesses indicated they had not canvassed for security camera footage. There's a criminal investigation, and they arrested 3 people. I'm not even going to pretend to fucking read those names. In connection with Nijjar's slaying, all 3 were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. According to police, the 3 men are all Indian nationals who had been living in Edmonton and had been present in Canada for between 3 and 5 years. 3 other murders, such as the killing of an 11-year-old boy in Edmonton, were also being investigated as having a connection with the group and Nijjar's killing, but are not suspected of being connected to the Indian government. The 3 men were present in Canada on temporary visas and are allegedly associated with the gang of Lawrence Bishnoi, whatever that fucking is. RCMP Assistant Commissioner Tabul said, there are separate incidents and distinct investigations ongoing in these matters, certainly not limited to the involvement of the people arrested today, and these efforts include investigating connections to the government of India. So, 3 people enter Canada between the 5 and 3 years ago by student visas, right? That's what they said? Sorry, temporary visas, my mistake. And Mark Miller, during this scandal, comes out and says plainly, as you heard him say there just now, that they are all biometrically checked. They did a background check. Doesn't look like it. It really doesn't look like it. And then, that's not even the worst story. The worst story is that the Canadian government was warned about immigration. The Canadian government was actively warned by people within the government who had access to statistics of how this would affect the economy, how this would affect the quality of life, how this would affect a series of things. They were warned at least 2 years before the consequences really started showing up. And they did nothing about it. Here it is. On CTV News, government was warned 2 years ago high immigration could affect housing costs.
Before the break, we were talking.
These people knew. Federal public servants warned the government 2 years ago that large increases to immigration could affect housing affordability and services, internal documents show. Documents obtained by the Canadian press through access to information requests show Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada analyzed the potential effects of immigration would have on the economy, housing, and services as it prepared its immigration targets from 2023 to 2025. The Deputy Minister of Immigration, Mark Miller, among others, was warned in 2022 that housing construction had not kept up with the pace of population growth. In Canada, population growth has exceeded the growth in available housing units. They were told, and they didn't give a shit. They pushed for this shit regardless, and now we're stuck dealing with the consequences. So when people tell me, right, when people tell me, oh my God, the Conservatives this, the Conservatives that, the Liberals have been in power for 10 years. They've been in power for 10 years. They were warned about these various issues. And any argument against it was called racist, sexist, global warming denialist. Every word, every slur or word or whatever fucking gimmick you can think of. They were warned. They were told by people, this is a bad idea. You shouldn't do this. There are consequences to this. And they did it anyways. My guess is that some of these people are actually ideologically motivated. Few of them. But some of them are. And others see that there is something to gain here. Because at the end of the day, who benefits from more immigration of low-skilled labor? Because we're not exactly importing millions of doctors from India. The amount of people that have just... the amount of traffic that has increased on the roads from Uber Eats drivers is very telling. Now, say what you want, fucking racially coded or otherwise. That's true. That's a fact. There's more of them. There's way more of these drivers everywhere. And you know what? Let's find some proof. Let's find some proof. Show me any available statistics showing trends of gig work or Uber Eats delivery and similar jobs throughout the years in Canada as a percentage of the labor market. There has to be some statistics on this. There's no way. There's no way there isn't. You know what? This Zen music is actually perfect because as I'm ranting and I take pauses to research this stuff, it is it's very soothing. Keeps me on the level. From 2005 to 2016, gig work rose from 5.5 to 8.2, and then in 2022, approximately 10% of the labor force engaged in gig work. There's been a notable increase. Holy shit. In 2023, 365,000 Canadians worked for delivery rideshare apps, with 57.5% being landed immigrants. And this is from CBC. If we're talking about a paper that isn't exactly incentivized to cover the dangers or the consequences of the government that they are, in my opinion, working so hard to defend, and they write this, that 57.5%, almost 60% of the new Uber Eats workers and gig workers are landed immigrants. Where's this figure? Let me see if I can find it. Statistics Canada, December 2023 labor force survey stated that landed immigrants accounted for almost 60% of the 365,000 people who worked for either delivery apps or ride sharing in the 12 months ending December 2023 across the country. Almost 1 million people did gig work as a main job across Canada, of a population of 40 million now. And these, like, they were warned about this. They were warned what this would do for the economy. But once again, more to this point, who does this benefit? This benefits the corporations. Because why would you hire a local Canadian who expects a fair wage and understands their workers' rights when you can have a newly landed immigrant who will work for as much, like as little money as you can give them, so long as either under the table or with the agreement that they send the money back to their family, and they get to pay them cheaper, and there's more of them, so they get to come in and take this work. Dude, it's been painted as some kind of racist talking point, but it's true. It's the same thing in America. Why would I hire an American that does the job for 20 bucks an hour when I can hire a Mexican that'll do it for 10 and that won't complain because their immigration status is in flux? Or Venezuelan, or whomever, or Cuban, like whichever illegal immigrant of your choice. Well, Cuban would actually be much harder. I don't know how many of them actually swim across the ocean at this point. But regardless, my point is, cheap labor is a benefit that you get from mass migration. And it's not a benefit that we get as the people, it's the businesses that benefit from this. Because now they don't have to do this. And you know what? Fine. Even if you don't believe me on this, check this shit out. The Canadian government has a program called the LMIA. This is the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. Okay, and some intrepid Canadian took it upon himself to create a map that shows just how prevalent the MLIA program is in Canada. Right? Just how many businesses participate in this. Bro, look at this fucking map. Look at this. Look at how many of them actually... Hold on, let me see if I can... Can I zoom in any further? Look at this! Just in Toronto alone. Look at how many businesses employ foreign workers. Low wage, food, bakery, meat processing, construction, chair frames, kebab. These are all low labor jobs, or sorry, low skilled labor for the most part. If you work in the service industry and you're flipping burgers or you're pouring coffee, that's low skilled labor. You're not creating rivets or even working on a construction crane or like low skilled labor is like entry level jobs that anyone can take. And so you have this wave of immigrants that come in and take all these but they apply for these jobs. Well, they do take them. I don't want it to sound like some fucking Republican talking point from the early 2000s. They're not actually like actively taking jobs. They're just coming in and they're filling a market need. And so because the business has their wage subsidized by this foreign worker program, if any business that actually takes the money from the government on this, they're getting their wage subsidized. Let me show you this. Explain how the Canadian government subsidizes wage costs for businesses using the foreign worker LMIA program. Since I'm not smart enough to memorize all this shit at once, Perplexity will do it for me. Here it is. The Canadian government facilitates reduced labor costs for businesses through the Temporary Foreign Workers Program and its labor market impact assessment requirements. Though it does not provide direct wage subsidies, instead the program structure indirectly lowers wage expenses by allowing employers to hire foreign workers under specific wage thresholds. Employers must apply for an LMIA under either the high wage or the low wage stream. Sorry, let me just zoom in. Depending on whether the offered wage meets provincial/territorial median wage levels. For example, in Ontario, pre-November 2024, the threshold was $28 an hour. Employers paying below this use the low wage stream. Let me see this. LMIA fees. Employers pay $1,000 per foreign worker for an LMIA, a fraction of the cost of raising wages to attract Canadian workers. No shit. You have to pay people less when the government allows you? Employers must match the median wage for the occupation and region, but in sectors with historically low wages like agriculture or hospitality, this still enables cost savings. Employers can hire foreign workers for up to 10% of their workforce, 20% for seasonal roles. This cap ensures access to cheaper labor without displacing Canadian workers entirely. Critics argue the program depresses wages in sectors reliant on foreign workers as businesses prioritize cost savings over raising pay to attract Canadians. It's an indirect wage subsidy by permitting employers to fill labor gaps at regulated wage levels below what might otherwise be required to attract Canadian workers. So they get to pay them less. Point and simple. They get to pay them less, and the government sponsors it. They facilitate it. They create the process for it. They allow them to apply for this program. And who suffers? The Canadians. Us. Kids that are like... I have met people that are young graduates that are coming out of university, and because they obviously can't, or they're not coming out, but they're still in university, and they can't get any jobs because they don't have a degree yet. They're still working towards it, so they're working all these remedial things, right? If you don't have an internship, you're bagging groceries, or you're working as a bartender, or what have you. Everybody as a student, just about everybody has had that experience where they have to fucking flip burgers for a moment, right? Do that kind of shit just to make money, unless they have some connections. And so those jobs that would typically be filled by students coming home for the summer break, or just living in the city trying to study and pay through their studies, they have less opportunity as a result of this. Which is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And I know people that have worked in places like the Amazon warehouses or food stocking stations like Cisco that have told me just how many people that are new immigrants to the country that are working like this. I know somebody that works in an industry that I can't disclose because I don't want to dox them, but I know somebody that works closely with a foreign worker, okay? And the foreign worker has admitted to this person that I know that they know they're getting fucked with. They know that their wages are getting cut, but because it's under the table, they're taking it anyways. And it's better because at least they're not getting fucking taxed out the ass on it. And I realize that that's an anecdote. That's a single one. But this trend is not... It's not based on some kind of myth. This is true. This is actively happening. And they were warned about this 2 years ago. They were told that this would happen. And they let it happen anyway. Better yet, they facilitated it. It's not that they let it happen, that they got out of their own way. They facilitated this. Because they thought it would benefit them. I would assume it's because some of these people have ties to these big corporations and big businesses. I would assume so. Benefit their friends. Or maybe they have stocks invested, so they benefit their stock. I don't know. What other benefit would you derive? Like what, these people were really watching out for the newcome immigrants? By letting them drive Uber Eats deliveries and work remedial jobs? Jobs that would otherwise be filled by Canadians? Look, fine. You don't believe me. If you don't believe me at this point, check this shit out. Look at this Canadian job fair. It was in Hamilton. It was in Hamilton. Look at this fucking lineup. You think that job is for, like, administrative assistant, which pays $50K? You think these jobs are, like, for people that have degrees? Doesn't look like it, because there's a whole wide range of people. You got everybody from teenagers to 50-year-olds. What kind of a job suits both of those age groups? Service jobs, entry-level jobs. And fine. Okay, fine. Here's an example for you. The Canada Exhibition Place last summer had a job fair. I think it was last summer. Maybe it was the one before. Where is it? Here it is. This job fair is for a 2-week fair that opens up in Toronto for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Pretty sure it's for 2 weeks, right? Or maybe, is it a month? I genuinely don't know. Either way, it's temporary. Let me see here. From mid-August through Labor Day each year. And Labor Day, mind you, in Canada is, what is it? How long is the exhibition place open for in Toronto? Because I want to make sure I got this right. 2 weeks does not sound long enough. Mid-August to Labor... Jesus Christ. When is Labor Day? I feel like I should know. Isn't it September 1st? I swear it's September 1st. Monday, September 1st. So from mid-August, for 2 weeks. Fine, we'll say 3 if we're being fucking generous. For 3 weeks they did this. And look at this. The CBC even covered this. Even they covered this.
Lines stretch across the NR Care Center at Exhibition Place, with thousands of young people eager for a summer job and over a dozen vendors on hand to interview those patiently waiting. The CNE says they received 37,000 applications this year, the most in the X's history. More than 80% of applicants are aged between 14 and 29. CEO Daryl Brown says even though it's great that people want to work with them, the reason for this uptick in demand is not necessarily a good one.
I think it's kind of a sad commentary on the lack of availability, particularly of youth employment. At the end of the day, last year was over 18,000 applications, so it's pretty much double that this year, and I think that's by virtue of what's happening with the economy.
Do you want spears or chips?
Stats from June show that youth unemployment across the country is at its highest since 2014, excluding the pandemic years, with Ontario's 16.5% youth unemployment rate higher than the national average of 13.5%. And teens say they're feeling the pressure.
A lot of places won't hire if you don't have experience, and it's very hard to get experience if they need experience to jobs. It's kind of a loop and you get stuck in it.
The competition was a lot because they wouldn't even read my emails, they wouldn't even call back. I've maybe had to apply maybe 4 more times and they still wouldn't answer me.
Before I got here, I was so confident. I'm here like half an hour early, and then I walk in and I see the line and I'm like, whoa. And then I get nervous.
Out of the 37,000 people who applied, only 5,000 will get hired for this year's CNE, and vendors know just about what they're looking for.
Availability is number one, experience, and basically what they're looking for. I like to ask them what they're looking for in an employer and an environment, and then see if it kind of gels with what we do as well.
Now, this job fair is only for today, with some applicants getting hired on the spot, already signing their documents in there. And some, depending on the vendor, will have to wait to find out whether they got a job at the CNE, which kickstarts August 16th. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Toronto.
So, even the CBC covers this and shows that for a single summer festival for 2 weeks, 2 weeks, even if we say 3 weeks, 3 weeks worth of seasonal work, people are so hungry for it that their number of applicants doubled over a year? Dude, people clamoring to work at a fucking carnival that's paying minimum wage in the hot sun, cleaning puke after kids. And look, I'm sure there's fun parts of it. I'm not trying to shit on it. I bet it would be fun to work at a fair, but it's a job. More so, it's a summer job. And these are the consequences of the Liberal government and their positions. Like, nobody forced them to adopt these measures. They did it of their own volition. The Conservatives tried to stop them. I'm sure the Quebecois did in their own little way by defending Quebec, and maybe some other parties did. I don't know. I just know the Conservatives. That's all that I saw in Parliament for the most part. They warned them. They told them that this would happen. They told them that this would be destructive for our economy. And yet they did it anyways. So I'm sorry, but I have no reason to trust these people. None. None whatsoever. I have no reason. Like, and then they have the gall to call anyone that goes against this racist. They have the absolute balls, the gumption to say that anyone that disagrees with us is hateful. Is insane. It's insane. It makes you go crazy, which is why I understand that. I understand why people would tune out when it gets this like passionate or emotional about this stuff. But it's important to be pissed off about this shit because it's a shame. And it looks like, is this live? Are we getting news that this is it? The Conservatives have lost? Is this really it? Has Pierre Poilievre said anything? Okay, so no statement. No statement yet. What about Daniel Smith? Okay, hold on. Conservative Party of Canada. Let's see if they've made any statements. Why is Twitter so fucking gay sometimes? Is this it? Which? This has got to be it, right? So nothing. They haven't said anything yet. Has Carney said anything? Let's see if Carney's tweeted anything. Nope, just that the polls are closed. Okay, so the counts are still coming in, right? This isn't over. I realize that global news wants to project a liberal government and they want to be the first to beat everyone to it. What about CBC? The impartial yeah, they project liberal government. Yeah, they project. Is this still liberal? Okay, what are they saying? Let's listen to these snakes.
The NDP, and a lot of people wondered what would happen to their seats, and you can see here that right now the NDP is trailing in 4 of the ridings that they hold on Vancouver Island, and both the Liberals and the Conservatives are taking the lead there. None of these, though, are projected elected. But let's take a look, first of all, at Victoria. Will Greaves, University of Victoria.
Okay, so they're still clearly counting. They're not they're projecting it, but who knows? They projected Hillary too. They try to sell America on Hillary, and America said, "Get that fucking bitch out of here." Let's see what's trending. Jesus Christ, that's dark. Oh my god. You know what? Fine. Let's have a bit of a lighthearted segment. Let's have a bit of a lighthearted segment on on some great memes. This fucking guy, holy shit. To those that don't know, middle finger boomer Canada election. This guy was standing to vote for Liberals, and the Brantford boomer, as he's known, was flipping his fingers to some protesters that showed up to a voting station, which is kind of weird. Like, why would you show up to protest a voting station? Those people are clearly already like made up their minds. There's no reason for this. I don't understand why you would do that. So this guy showed up, took a video of this guy just finger flipping. I guess he just wanted to like flip off the the protesters, which, like, fair. I mean, if I'm going to vote for someone, I've already made up my mind. I don't understand why you think you can make an argument by, like, yelling some slogans at me or some shit. It's kind of weird. But fine, okay. In this day and age where everything is a clip, I guess you got to get your content. But this became the symbol of, like, oh, the old boomer generation is flipping off the rest of us by saying, fuck you, I'm voting liberal anyway, regardless of how these last 10 years have gone. Which, that's, in my opinion, I understand why the internet does that. They read too much into it, or they, like, project some kind of a belief onto this person when in reality you don't, like, nobody's ever met this guy. Nobody's ever, like, actually sat down and talked with him until, like, the CBC article that came out today. And they don't really know, like, why he did that or his justification or whatever the hell. It was just, like, a split moment and it went viral. I get it. That's how the internet works. That's how we get memes. But it was certainly emblematic of what it felt like. Not only in the last 10 years, but this election. Let's see something else. Oh, great. Okay. Because watching conservatives cry and throw up on here, we're so back. You realize we share the country, right? Like, our dollar is the same value. You realize that, right? Like, our savings all go into the same pot. Our tax dollars get used up for the same things. Like, all right. I guess that's the internet for you. Everyone go out and vote. LeBron James. Nice. Nice. That's solid. That's a good vote. Holy shit. 152 to 154. When was that? That must have been a while ago. And this one says 149. Yeah, see, where are these numbers coming from? Here's my thing. Where's the count? This still says 111 to 104. 148 to 162. 149 to 162. They're only 100,000 votes short. I mean, could they make it up? Could they make up the lead? How close is this actually going to be? I'm not buying the fact that this is over. Part of me because I don't want to buy it because fuck that. It's about time we get a win. All right, let's see what else there is. Yeah, that's a boomer meme if I've ever seen one. Yeah, also this. Yet another boomer meme, but because of just how pixelated it is, you can tell, like, what the fuck, dude? This has been, like, saved and screenshotted hundreds of times to get that effect. That's fucking crazy. That is another funny thing to point out, how, like, everyone was so against this tariffs and all this stuff that Trump was doing. Meanwhile, the carbon tax was about to get increased in April by 20%, and they canceled it just in time. Like, our own government is about to fuck us in the ass way worse than any tariffs could. Meanwhile, everybody's eyes were on Trump because Trump is such a polarizing figure. Conservative crashing out, we up. Bro, we're in the same country. Canada has spoken. Canadians have chosen Mark Carney, a renowned economist, over a career politician. Oh, that's funny. Canada has fallen. Oh, relax, you fucking sanctimonious cunt. Hasn't fallen. We ain't going nowhere. The government is not the people. One thing I will say, I'll say this much, okay? Whatever the results of this election, realistically, there's fuck all we can do about it. Like, we can vote and canvass and get the people out there and whatnot, but there's really fuck all we can do about it. Because at the end of the day, this federal shit, the promises that they make are just that. They're promises. And we hope that they keep them. And we hope that their record is in line with the policies that they want to push. But at the end of the day, these guys can just turn around and do whatever the fuck they want. Just like how they said the carbon tax was the end-all be-all thing. And then Carney gets in, and the first day he's like, all right, it's election time. I gotta cut that shit because I gotta remove that from a line of attack. And then Pierre Poilievre couldn't say anything about the carbon tax anymore. Well, he couldn't say it with the same confidence that he could before, because they got rid of the consumer-facing tax for a lot of things. But they didn't get rid of the corporate tax. Because when the businesses get taxed, well, the businesses are not just going to eat that cost, they're just going to make their shit more expensive for the consumer so they can account for that cost. Because if any business actually takes a hit by the government on an additional tax and just eats that, there's only so much that you can do to survive as a business until you have to price your items higher so that the consumer can make up for that tax. Any competitive business is going to do that, and I don't blame them, because businesses aren't supposed to be in the business of social policy. They're in the business of business, which is cutthroat. You're supposed to make as much money as possible with as little expenditure as possible. That's the whole idea. And make a good enough product, or make a cheap enough product, or just make a commercially viable product so that you can continue and innovate and make more products and sell more shit and give more services. That's the whole point of a business. That's why they have to grow every single year and show a distinct line of growth, which is why it's such huge news when businesses dip in growth, especially big ones. Because they're expected to grow year in and year out. And so why would any business take the hit on behalf of the taxpayer? Why? That's not their prerogative. That's not their job. That's not what they're there for. They're there to make our products. They're there to make sure we get food on time. You don't want a service or a business that is ideologically motivated in some way. You want somebody that's cutthroat to give you the cheapest product and make it as accessible as possible. That's how we get eggs to $1. Now, obviously, there's problems with that philosophy, and I'm not saying that it's pure. I'm just saying that that's the world that businesses operate in, as they should. That's their prerogative. So naturally, they're going to pass it on to the consumer. They're going to make us pay for it. And Mark Carney on multiple occasions said, oh, well, how many tons of steel do you buy? Well, steel isn't a lot of things that we use on a daily basis, so the price of cars goes up. The price of anything that requires steel for its manufacturing goes up, which means consumer products go up. So, even though Carney got rid of the carbon tax, he didn't really. The business-facing one is still there. I mean, let me see if I can... find the clip on this. Here it is. Here's the clip I wanted.
Then secondly, what we're going to do is make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens...
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, you know, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? I mean, not as much we used to. So anyway, so that's core to... Then secondly, what we're going to do is make sure not that the government pays, not that we as taxpayers pay, but the large polluters pay. And so what happens...
But does that not ultimately trickle down?
No, because what the big companies are producing, by and large, are not products that we are consuming. There's some element of that, but by and large, you know, a steel company, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? I mean, not as much.
Yeah, how much steel are you using these days, Todd? How much steel are you using these days? Yeah, the guy that sells steel to make your fucking knives, or that goes into your toaster, or whatever the fuck, he's just gonna jack the price up, as he should. Like, what the fuck? Anybody that, like, takes 5 seconds to think about this, like, eventually that's gonna trickle down to the buyer, one way or another. Like, this isn't even a debate. It's just, that's the way the what's it called? What's the word for it? Not product chain. God, what's the... Not operations. There's a word for it. I can't think of it. Well, that's that's the if we can call it the product chain, that's how that would work. That's how logistics works. They have to source the raw materials to make the goods, and then they sell the goods to the consumer or to other businesses, which then sell it to some kind of a consumer. One way or another, there's no avoiding the consumer. Somebody has to buy the product. And if you're making it harder or more expensive to make that thing that the business is buying to sell, well, they're going to raise the price in relation to that. It's very confusing, like how he decided to use this logic in some kind of a way to distract people from the truth. It's very strange. I find it very strange, and I find it hard to believe that so many people fell for this. But it looks like, is this it? Are they calling it? They already put the green check mark? Is this it?
Watch Andrew Coyne's face.
Yeah.
It was not on camera, but it was one of the most amazing moments of the evening. So good on all of you.
I'm here for a good time and apparently a long time.
Anyway, that was really nice.
I still have my job.
Let's go to Manitoba now and start with seat change in the province of Manitoba, where they've been counting for a long, long time. And you can see the Liberals up two at the expense of the NDP, though only one of those two is elected. The other one is leading. But let's take a look, first of all, in the one they're leading. We've talked about it a few times already. Nikki Ashton has been the longtime
It's funny because I work for the CBC and I get to keep my job. It's so funny. It's so funny. I get to keep covering for the Liberal government. It's so funny. It's so funny how I get to propagate my bias on a national stage. It's so funny. I still have a job. Yeah, like laugh it up, dude. Our dollar is worth the same. If I get fucked, so do you. Maybe because he's at a higher income bracket, he doesn't get fucked as hard. But everyone gets fucked in the end. Like, good luck, man. Like, all the people that are cheering on this conservative loss, like, we're doing it at our own peril. The Conservatives are not going to solve Canada or solve all their problems, and that's not at all what I'm trying to say here. But if you want to make the argument that the last 10 years have left people somehow better off or that we're in a better place, even despite COVID and all this shit that we've been through, even taking all that into account, it's just, I find it hard to believe that anyone would truly embrace that idea and think that they are better off. Immigration out of control. You have an erasure of Canadian identity at the hands of groups like Black Lives Matter and anti-colonial groups and all those people that burned the churches down. You have Safe Supply, which is the government-funded program to give drug addicts safe drugs, which they then turned around and sold for actual fentanyl because fentanyl is stronger than the government-ordered drugs, which is real, by the way. Like that's an actual like news story. Let me fact check it again. Were there cases where Safe Supply drugs were sold to drug dealers in exchange for fentanyl? Because this is the argument for the Liberal government. They said, oh, well, at least, like, we want to sell these addicts drugs that are clean so that they don't overdose as much. Which, okay, I understand trying to be sensitive to that, but at the same time, you're still supplying them with drugs, and now it's state-sponsored drugs, which means that our tax dollars are going to this program. And has drug use gone down? Have suicides gone down? Has overdoses, have they increasingly gone down? Let me see this. There's got to be a news story on this. There's been tons of them. Oh, here's a CBC news story. Here's the great CBC talking about this. Prescribed Dilaudid. What the fuck is that? From Safe Supply used as currency for illicit drugs, London police say. Wow, the London police. Which seized more than 11,000 8-milligram tablets of Dilaudid, which is a brand name of hydromorphone prescribed to people for narcotic addictions as part of a safe opioid supply program, among other drugs. They found 11,000 tablets in a drug bust. 11,000 government-sponsored drugs in a bust. That's one story. That's just one story. Safe Supply drugs found in raid. Here's another story. Campbell River RCMP search warrant that led to alleged find of 3,500 pills highlights issue of drug diversion. This investigation began with the alleged kidnapping last November of a bank customer in Campbell River, BC, who claimed he was being forced to transfer his car and thousands of dollars to drug traffickers. It ended with a raid on a fortress-like property with the boundaries of a tiny First Nation 10 kilometers away, and according to police, the seizure of thousands of pills originally provided to users of the province's Safe Supply program. Wow. Another story. That counts too. Oh, come on. Where's the other link? Wow, here's another story from National Post, which, yes, is a conservative-leaning paper, but here they are reporting on BC's safe supply drugs being sold by organized crime across Canada. So that's a great policy. That worked out. Enriching drug dealers and just giving people free drugs that they could exchange for stronger drugs, so they're still getting their drugs, and now it's a lot easier to get them because the government just hangs it out for free as long as you're at risk enough. Or how's about MAID? How's about our suicide? How's about our safe suicide program that nobody talked about in this election, including Pierre Poilievre? What was that story of the wheelchair Canadian? Christine Gauthier, a 54-year-old Canadian Army veteran and Paralympian, says the Canadian government would quickly approve her so-called medical assistance in dying, but will not give her the equipment she needs for her everyday life. As I am waiting for medical equipment and an elevator, it's been 6 years now, it's still not here. I told my agent I couldn't go anymore, and he told me I have the right to die. Paralympian says Canada would kill her in weeks if they could after she rejected the euthanasia offer. She served with the Canadian Forces and 10 years as a para-athlete. And she was speaking to the agent for Veterans Affairs. She was just trying to get a fucking stair lift, a fucking acorn stair lift. And she was told that she could fucking go to the suicide program. The initial offer of euthanasia is said to have been made in 2022, 6 years after Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party introduced new laws legalizing euthanasia for terminally ill Canadians. Gauthier claims she was told she had the right to die by a caseworker from Veteran Affairs Canada, a government agency. Responding to the revelations, Trudeau told reporters in 2022, "We are following up with investigations and we are changing protocols to ensure what should seem obvious to all of us, that it is not the place of Veteran Affairs Canada, who are there to support those people who stepped up to serve their country, to offer them medical assistance in dying." Yeah, you're goddamn right it's not their fucking place. Imagine serving your fucking country in the army and then serving them as an Olympian. on a global stage, and your representative, an agent in the Veteran Affairs Canada, an organization that is meant to protect veterans, is recommending that you seek out medical assisted dying instead of getting a fucking chairlift. Fucking Christ. Has that lady not given enough for the fucking country? Insane. And look, her case is not the same as every other case for MAID. I understand that. There's plenty of people that are actually in dire need of this program. I am not unsympathetic to that. I understand. There are some people that are living with absolutely horrid conditions on a daily basis who would feel better if they just killed themselves. That's a reality. I get that. This program was trying to fix that, but it went so far as to recommending a veteran that she should commit suicide instead of providing her with a fucking chairlift. I understand that this is an outlier, but the fact that this even happened is indicative of the problem itself. So this government, right, that's pushed policies like this for all this time, and the CBC commentators are laughing and joking that, oh my god, we get to keep our jobs live on the air. Ha ha ha, it's so funny, we get to keep our jobs. That's great. I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you get to keep your jobs. That's fantastic, because that's what fucking matters. Not where we're headed as a country, not what we're going to do regardless of Trump, not where the economy is headed, not the fact that we're providing drugs to addicts only to then find them in drug raids. No, that's not important. What's important is that we get to keep our jobs at the CBC. Exhibiting our bias with just about every story. Like that's what's so frustrating about being a Canadian right now, because whenever you mention this stuff in polite company or bars or wherever, like just strangers, you really have to gauge the conversation and see how they react, because a lot of people are on board with this kind of stuff, and these opinions are so divorced from reality that, in my opinion, I think they're so ideologically based, and people think that their ideas are representative of who they are as people. They tie themselves to these political ideas instead of remaining fluid and trying to live up to some more eternal ideas like freedom of expression or freedom of assembly or freedom of association or any of these foundational things. That the ideology just seems so much more attractive, and so they don't care that we're paying the consequences. They don't care that they can't afford a house as a newlywed couple, or that rent in urban centers is at such a bad spot that people are living 6 to a room. Like, check this shit out. Brampton landlord story about people living in basements. Let's see if we can find some horror stories. Let's see if we can find some photos. Come on. No. I want to see some actual fucking... some photos. Oh, there's got to be something, man. There's got to be some horrible... because there's been plenty of stories of landlords just squeezing 20 people to a fucking basement. Oh, here we go. Jesus Christ. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars to a small house. 7, 8, if that's still the same one. Parking on the street. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. A den? For $480. You get your own... Oh, you get your own mini fridge. That's so nice. What the fuck is that entrance? Bro, holy shit. Could you imagine stumbling back home and you're drunk off your fucking rocker and you gotta take the stairs on your first dip? Holy... Look at that incline. Holy shit, look at that fucking angle. How deep does that basement go? My god. Oh, come on. There's got to be more photos of this. This is just too funny. Landlords charged $83,000 in fines as mayor vows to get rid of slum conditions in Brampton. They're calling them slums. Can we see some goddamn photos, please? Slum landlords. Yeah, I understand. This is the same fucking shit, though. They're just doing renovations for basements, yada, yada. No. I want to see some photos of the actual basements. Come on. Oh, my God. Bro, you're 4 to a basement? Holy shit. No dividers, no nothing. What is that? Is that wall? Is that what we saw earlier? Is that it? Is this it? Is that this? Because that's a brown door and there's no tiling. Oh my god, where does that even lead? That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Let me see if I can find... There's got to be something on Google Images. There's got to be. Hold on. Brampton basement ad. Brampton landlord rents out 4 beds side by side in a single room for $550. Yeah, there it is. Oh, God. Oh, my God. $350 for rent. Holy shit. That's insane. What are those sheets? Dude, you're not a kid. Get some plain sheets. You're a grown-ass man. Come on. Oh, no, I'm getting pictures of, like, realtors and shit. No. Basement. What if I do slum? If I add slum, is that gonna do anything to it? Or Brampton basement overcrowding? Holy shit. That's nuts. Hello, Stained. Nothing much. I'm just mid-stream here. Let me turn on the mic here. Un momento, por favor. How's the book coming along? Are you writing tonight or what?
Yes, this is a much welcome break from screaming at my computer and trying to figure out the best way to not earn a fatwa from my editor when I hand this in. So I showed up at like 11,000 cars outside a 1-bedroom home. And then I logged into Discord and I'm like, oh, Fang.
That's great, because that's basically what I've been doing for the last 4 hours, is screaming at my fucking computer. I just got to the part where I'm talking about basements in Brampton, which is where all the Indian immigrants live, and I've been showing the ads and what their living dwellings looked like during the peak of this whole fucking crisis, which is hilarious to say the least. Let me just share my screen here with you.
Muchas gracias. And I must admit, I was expecting like a tent in a basement going $250 a month, because I thought it was going to be bad. It's so much worse.
Bro, I just found a basement that doesn't even have like tile or like a floor underneath it as you walk in, because the way that they built it was to maximize on space. So literally the first step that you take, if you're not looking after a night out with your boys, you will literally just fall head first and fucking die.
You know what? I'm curious if any elected official running for office moving forward will like dare speak out against it, because like, in all due respect, Modi in India has gotten at least like one Canadian politician whacked, or am I misremembering?
I literally covered that exact story like not even an hour ago, where what happened was they they had questionable ties to the Indian government, but the problem was that when the immigration minister was questioned on this, he immediately told on the news for everyone to hear that anybody traveling on a foreigner's visa, there's like bio digital signatures that are taken from them. We do background checks and all that. And then I posted something that like completely disproved it, because that wasn't, he lied. Like he just outwardly lied. Just just plain faced lied for no fucking, well, we know the reason, but literally just straight up lied about it.
And and his thanks, Modi got him whacked. And I think Modi's gonna be whacking people in my country because funny face Kash Patel is head of the what, FBI? Ay,
Yeah.
ay, ay. Like I just, it could have been worse. Imagine an Indian Pope.
That would have been something. But yo, so check this photo out. Look at this fucking basement, dude. Like that, you're just waiting for someone to die.
That's incredible. That's like before a cutscene in Resident Evil 2 plays. You walk up to that and press X before you regret not saving your game.
Dude, I found one that was even worse, where it showed like another angle of it. Let me see if I can pull the image up, because it was even worse because it didn't even have the tile there. There it is. There's the, yo, look at this. It's a floating door. What the fuck, man? Four to a basement.
You have to crouch jump to get outdoors.
It's insane. They were doing this for $350. $350 a month.
Oh, I'm, ay, ay, ay. You know, it's impossible to ignore. In some areas, like obviously in Brampton, it's like the Punjabi version of the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio, minus eating cats, but like, and not as stinky. But there's a lot of money to be made from this. Like, lest we forget.
Yep, I was literally talking about this as well. How the immigration crisis, as we've increased the Canadian population by 10 million in such a short time, has essentially benefited business owners, because now they get to hire people on the cheap with questionable immigration status that will gladly take any amount of money because it beats fucking 10 rupees a day or whatever the fuck they used to make back home. So they'll gladly take it, and whatever abuse they have to take, they'll deal with that too. They'll take all the overtime and as many hours as they can, and either send it back home or use it here. Like, I checked the Uber stats, or like the gig worker stats for Canada in 2023. 53% or like 57% of all gig workers were new immigrants.
Oh, it's not just that way in Canada. Like, even as like, which kind of scares me actually. Even as far as Portugal and Spain, even as far as like parts of Scandinavia. Like, if you order delivery on Uber Eats, it's a coin flip if it's going to be a Pajit or not.
Yeah. And I remember on Twitter there was this one lady that she complained about it, because she was like, I was expecting some woman in a hijab as her photo, and then this guy showed up, which is really dangerous, and that everyone called her out for being racist. And then literally the next day, an incident happened where an Uber Eats driver like sexually assaulted the customer, and the person that made the order didn't think anything of the person that was coming by, because it was not their face or their name or anything. And so then people were like, here's a direct example of where this goes wrong, and you guys are calling them fucking racist. Like, what is wrong with you?
Okay, well, that balances out the racism. Now we're back at zero. What's the problem here?
Yeah, like, what the fuck?
Just, okay, hang on. Just give me one moment. I want to share something with you. I was
Please do.
Doing some editing. Give me 1 second. Hang on. All right, are you ready, kids?
I'm ready.
All right. A woman in rural Quebec has seen the migrant population around her triple in the past year alone. It clicked just how bad it got when she started seeing grocery store carts in random yards far from their stores. Off in Ontario, a man is walking through a park in Burlington and sees hundreds of Muslims facing west in prayer on their rugs. A Canadian serial killer is declaring asylum in the United States. The ICE agents dealing with him and the paperwork involved are in stitches over every answer he gives, like, "Oh, everybody is sick of Pac-Mans and Hindi poos. I'd say there are at least 2 dozen budding serial killers in the making back there," he sighs in an exaggerated hoser voice. "Albertans are the most American Canadians, eh? All talk, no action, hmm? It'll be the psychos in Manitoba that kick anything off. At some point, the Red Indians are gonna start scalping the Pooh Indians and no one's gonna be able to stop it. 'Cause that would be racist," he says. The ICE agent's nodding while waiting for the next thing to laugh at before taking an early lunch. The leaf before them will start killing and eating hookers days after the paperwork clears.
That's a, you know what? Here in Canada, I don't know if you're familiar. We have these things called Canadian heritage moments.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. That would, dude, that would be a perfect Canadian heritage moment right there.
Like a dude rocking back and forth, looking like a dumbass in overalls and like a skiing jacket. Like um his hat is like off center, like a dummy.
God. Yeah, not looking good. It's all looking good for our government. I think the libs might have they might have clinched this. The last numbers that I looked at, it stands. The CBC is crashing because it's fucking god awful, but everybody's reporting like liberal majority. The votes haven't stopped, or like the counts haven't stopped. So who the fuck knows? But not looking good.
Now, excuse my ignorance, but if you're repeating anything, I apologize. But as a burger, I am wholly devoid of the world outside the United States. Like, every country outside of America is taught about the world, and in America, it's like, Mayor McSlam had this for breakfast. Up next on Fox News. Now we're gonna dance on the skulls of little children. Buy shit from Amazon. You wanna watch the WWE? If you're not gay, it's illegal to not be gay. And like, that's American news. So we don't know about the world outside our country.
I mean, that's fair. The new Whopper's out, we lose all collective memory.
Yo, it's like there could be like a hostage negotiating mess happening in the World Trade Center, and the guy is like, "I'm going to feed the black cube and open the void once again," and then like they release a new McRib, and everyone forgets about like the abyss that has appeared over Manhattan.
Well, yeah, have you seen this clip of the CNN? Do you know this one where they're like covering the war and then Applebee's.
The dude in the jeans dancing. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, but I get your meaning. So basically, we have a similar system than to yours, where like you have certain districts where you have representatives like governors and what have you, but you do have like a federal like vote. Like when you go to the ballot box, you vote for the president. Here, it's members of parliament. So if you just happen to live in a liberal riding that's always been liberal, well, your conservative vote isn't really going to do shit unless somehow your neighbors all around you decide to also vote conservative. Like, that's really the only way, is if you actually turn your riding around. So as a result, Canada essentially, I just had this up one of these tabs here. Yeah, so they have all these ridings, most of which are concentrated towards the southern border, obviously, because more people live there, so they have to segment them. And so, if you win your riding, that's a seat that you win in Parliament. The more seats you win, the more chance you have of a majority. But governments can enter into, or parties rather, can enter into deals where, like, the Liberals and the NDP in the last government, they entered a deal where the NDP were basically like, we want to push for our socialized medicine programs. So if you support those, we will support your vote. Because anytime that a new budget is tabled or anything like that, if there is a high enough percentage of people that disagree with the budget, that's called a vote of no confidence, which then automatically triggers an election. And so to avoid that, the NDP, their leader, has actually come out and he has admitted this on camera. He has come out and he said that the reason he did not vote against the Liberals is because he was quote unquote afraid of what the Conservative government would do. So, despite the fact that Trudeau was arguably, if not statistically, the least popular prime minister or among the least popular prime ministers in Canadian history, he decided not to vote because it was in his best selfish self-interest to deny the vote of the people and to push for his party's policies. Which, fine, I get it, that's politics, but to come out and say it so brazenly is fucking ballsy, especially for a party that has gotten how many seats? They have, what, 3? 8? Like, they're nothing.
Damn.
They're nothing now. Yeah, the NDP have completely dude, they're behind the Québécois. And the Québécois leader came out in the debate, and during the debate he said, I am not running to be prime minister. I am just here to advocate on behalf of Quebec. Like, he just said that full front, and the NDP is below them. So
is it safe to say that Quebec is more popular than the NDP right now?
In Quebec it is, yeah. I mean, the rest of the country, who the fuck knows? But by leading those numbers, yeah. So, they entered into that deal, and so the Conservatives were like, "Well, fuck, we're just gonna, remain as the opposition, and we're gonna voice our discontent with what you guys are doing, but we're not really in a position to do anything." And so, what ended up happening? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Just so I could draw a line between America and the rest of the world a little more. Do you guys have voter ID laws? Like, do you have to show like a government ID, and they make sure you are who you are to vote? Like, are felons allowed to vote by mail? Like in some places here.
I don't know about the rule about felons, but that actually brings me to a great scandal that I did not cover at all, actually, this stream. And this is great that you mentioned it, because there was a gentleman who, in the provincial election, he went to like 8 different polling stations, told them that he did not have authorized ID, and whatever he provided was essentially enough to get him to the process. Now, the process was officially you would present your ID at the provincial election, which are essentially our states, and you would, give them your info, and then they would pass you an iPad where you would sign that I am such and such, and legally my vote is binding, and so on and so forth. And if I commit fraud, there's all these legal boundaries and all this shit. He got to that process of the iPad like 8 separate times without them questioning anything, which that means that if he just went ahead to vote, barring an investigation of somebody trying to look through all the voter rolls and trying to match names to faces and IDs and doing all those checks, which I highly doubt they actually would, he would have essentially been allowed to vote 8 times. Which, if I can find it, he did a whole video where he actually calls the Election Bureau of of Ontario, and he tells them this. He tells them, I have video proof of me doing this at several ballot stations, and I was not stopped at any point. So he would get to the point of the iPad, and then he would admit to the person, I'm actually such and such, I lied about this, and you all let me vote, and he just walks out.
Wow, that's did excuse my ignorance, but did the news cover this at all? Or
No.
was this like,
No coverage. Nothing.
So let me get this straight. He recorded multiple instances of committing voter fraud on camera, and I'm not saying he gave himself up, but like, think about it. If he had gotten arrested, it would have made the news because someone there would have like, why is someone at a polling place getting arrested? Like, do you see the how many times they have to not arrest him to make the story quiet down? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like enforcing the law will only prove his point and then bring scandal. And the only way out is to just let him keep committing voter fraud.
Yeah, he was this like independent YouTuber that did it. He wasn't even like a big name. He wasn't like a journalist. He was literally just some guy in his room. And now I'm having a real hard time finding the video because I wouldn't be surprised if he scrubbed it. Like it was up for a while.
Ooh, did you think someone knocked on his door?
I wouldn't be surprised because during the convoy, what they did was exactly that. They would go around and knock on people's door and give them instructions on how they can protest in a very civil manner. And they did this based on Facebook posts that people made on their private pages. So if the RCMP can do that against some fucking truckers that are not, like, they're not physically hurting anyone, they're just honking and you don't like that, then I wouldn't be surprised if he also got a knock on his door being like, hey, you can't do this or you've been charged with election fraud. Because I can't find any mention of it anywhere. There's just one screen cap of his channel, but there's nothing. Even Twitter doesn't have anything. I'm genuinely surprised by this because like there was video of this.
I'm tempted to suggest.
Oh, found him.
Suggest it. Maybe on the way back machine, absolute worst case scenario. I mean, I'm that's just like absolute extreme. But give me one moment. Hold on, one moment. Okay, so only because excuse me if I'm being nosy, but I see that you subscribe to Sam Sulek. I have a line about him in the second book.
Oh hell yeah.
Sam Sulek's heart will explode from all the steroids, and I hope it'll be on the live stream. If he keeps doing what he's doing, if he keeps doing what he's doing, it'll happen before his 28th birthday. Include me in the screen cap.
Yeah, I don't know if he's daddy or not, but that guy's fucking huge. He's another fucking species, man. That guy's something else.
Oh, but part of his appeal is that like he is simultaneously both ends of the bell curve meme because yeah, he'll sometimes say grug shit and then sometimes he'll say like unusually deep and profound things, like before going back to like chugging a gallon of juice between sets. And I remember one time someone was like, "Why are you drinking that? Like it's just sugar and water." And he said, "Oh, I need the calories, man." And it's like, have you not seen what this man eats? Like I'm telling you, dude, age 28, his heart's gonna pop like a zit.
I mean, if he keeps going this way, then yeah, there's only so much you can do with your body until it just fucking gives out.
I will say though, like the if you'll allow me to run my mouth a moment.
Please do, please do.
Because he's not the first person to lift and do roids to get infamy. I'm sure you know the meme Ziz. It was this Australian.
Oh, yep.
We're all gonna make it, brah. And he was on vacation in Thailand, and a combination of roids and drugs while in a sauna, I think, did him in.
Yep.
And I hate to say this, but like he did steroids, but he's still heralded as a hero. And like I never understood that. Like I'm because we get into this weird separate the art from the artist argument, but he's not even a fucking artist. Does that make sense? Because like the positivity of we're all gonna make it, brah, and like look at him being like a little scrawny fucking wog in Australia to like this shredded. He looks like Urian from Street Fighter 3. Like that was the physique he had. And like that's fucking terrifying, especially if you look at him like from when he was a kid. Um, so anyways, I just find it fascinating because like Sam Sulek exists in the same like realm as him, and more like I would argue Sam Sulek's on roids. But like he's clearly a very wholesome and genuine guy. And I remember one video where like he had his brother in it, and he was like, it was my brother who convinced me to start like recording stuff I would talk about while lifting. And like that's so he's clearly not a sociopath. Like he seems like a decent enough dude. Like I would totally get kicked out of a Korean all you could eat buffet with him on cheat day. Totally would. There's something about like I understand getting older and using like testosterone replacement therapy because there are very very few natural ways to raise your testosterone, and like surprise, like not getting enough sleep and not eating right and not being active and even not even getting sunlight can affect your testosterone greatly, and that in turn affects everything. Okay, so I get when as you get older it's harder um to keep your testosterone levels like high or like at a healthy level. But then like steroids, like come on. Like when no one in history has ever had the stain of steroids on their career and everyone was like, hell yeah. It's always like I think forever like Barry Bonds, um fucking Sammy Sosa Jr. and Mark McGuire. Like don't they forever have an asterisk next to their like home run record cause of like roids? Like, just like, surprise, you made it, but you, not really. Also, speaking of, do me a favor, can you like look up a picture of Sammy Sosa then and now? I'm not even gonna spoil it. Like, it's. Oh God.
Oh my
He's,
god.
yes.
He's white.
He looks like a fucking ghoul, doesn't he?
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
hold on. What are you looking at, smooth skin? Yo, and I'm not saying he's like Wesley Snipes black in the before pictures, but like he's obviously like black. He's Latino, okay? But you know what? Like while we're on topic, I was talking to my boy about this yesterday. We have commercials that live rent free in our heads for a multitude of reasons, for better and for worse. So there was like a video game and like Sammy Sosa's name was in it, and like there was a commercial for it. I forget it, but like Sammy Sosa's All Star Challenge or some shit. It was a game, a video game before 9/11, and there was a commercial, and I remember the he would go, "It's so real," like a couple of times throughout the commercial, and then it was meant to imply that he was so spellbound by the commercial, like he want like you hear like a voice off camera going, Sammy, you're in the wrong game, and he looks around like the dumbest founded open mouthed like it's one of the few things I wish someone made a gif of, which like there are very few things on my list of ideas I cannot execute but want to give to another person that's really high off the fucking list. No, it's not. It's is it this? No.
No, it's an
It's like
all-star
some.
game.
It's like some fucking kids game. Like it was like a game meant for kids, and like the graphics were all like cartoony and shit. No, not this, not this. Hold on. Let's. Wait, is it the? It's so real. Hold on. Go back. Go back. There you go. you see, Sammy, you're in the. He's so You see, it's this fucking. Because I like how he looks at you all incredulously, like he's so Sammy, you're in the wrong game. Like a fucking like a fucking child lost in a crowded movie theater. He's looking around. when he picks up the phone. Look at how fucking dumb he looks right
Jesus Christ, dude.
there. So hold on, go back to when his manager calls him when he's on. There you go. Okay.
What?
Just that gif, that, but as a gif of confusion. It's
And the Tim Allen grunt. What?
Yes, it's a 3-act play, okay? Because like he's on the mountain, then the call, and then the response leading to the Twilight Zone twist. You're in the wrong game. What Twilight Zone shit is this? So no, thank you. This commercial has haunted me since I was a child. And because the face he makes, it's almost as if it was like, Sammy, there's a 40-foot giant destroying your home country. Like, that's the incredulousness of his, like, huh? What? Like it's like that was some like guy who plays a dumbass in a telenovela face he just made. Oh, thank you.
Jesus Christ.
This was like cookies for my soul. So may one day, inshallah, may one day someone make a gif of like Sammy on the mount, pick up the phone, and that's because there are a few things in this life I know I am incapable of doing, and making gifs is one of them. So I hope, like in the comic book Punisher 2099, like the guy who takes up the mantle, basically like the plot line is like someone finds the Punisher's like armory, and he was like, pick up where I left off from like Frank Castle, the Punisher, and it was like the death date of like 40 something. Like well into his elderly years, this guy was just fucking murking criminals like left and right. In fact, like there was a reference to it in a later issue where like the newspaper caught a picture of him, and like when he was in his like 70s, he was just an old man walking around in a tracksuit with a fucking AK-47. Like that.
Jesus.
Because he couldn't fit into his old uniform anymore, but he still kept waking up every morning wanting to murder criminals. That was a superpower, murdering criminals with guns. So, anyways, when I leave my work behind, I'm gonna give explicit instruction to whoever discovers my notes or opens my coffin, and I'm like, you've got to make a gif of this time mark in this YouTube video. In this flash drive, there is a video. You must make a gif of these time codes.
Carry on my work.
Yeah, and he's gonna be like, who the fuck is Sammy Sosa? And then they Google Sammy Sosa. I mean, they ask Skynet who Sammy Sosa is in the year 2048, and then they see the before and after. They think I'm crazy.
Oh, Jesus.
Ay. So just, and one last thing, just to get it off my chest, okay? I dated a girl who lived in a basement apartment, and like it was an illegally renovated basement because everything was really nice and spectacular and modern, like the nice shit you see in the catalog. And I remember asking her like, so like, well, why is it so cheap? I mean, like you know, like Formica on like the stuff like the shelves and the things you like the drawers and whatnot, and the kitchen was really lovely, and then it turns out like it was just tile over dirt.
Oh God.
Like but the tiles were so well put together and close and nice, and it was done, and it was really swanky. But it wasn't until like a few years in, like a tile came out, and she was like, oh, that's the earth. That's not the floor. That's the earth.
Dude, that's like Lincoln's log cabin brought to life in the modern day.
Yeah. Why is this place so cheap? I don't know. Don't worry about it. But real quickly. So, if I understand correctly, Canada is a parliament, which means even if there is a majority, to some degree they have to play ball with the members of the other parties who won at least one seat, right?
Oh yeah, there was like open talks that even if the cons win, that at least one party, the Greens, were trying to coalesce with the others, and they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna like block everything and have a vote of no confidence. So if you don't have enough seats that you win, we're just gonna vote for an election, and there's nothing you can do about it."
Oh,
It's like lame duck presidents, but even worse.
So, it's like that Dave Chappelle sketch where he keeps pleading the fifth. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of pleading the fifth, they could just keep voting no confidence, like on anything the liberals propose.
If the conservatives, if they have enough seats, and they don't even have to vote for no confidence, they just have to downvote whatever the fuck they're doing. The conservatives did that really well too. Like there was a bill that was up for expanding the socialized dental care, and the conservatives were like, "Well, you guys did the classic American trick of, it's not even American. I'm sure Canadians have done it, for centuries now, where you have a giant spending bill." And on one hand, you can say like, "Oh, this is the don't kill babies bill because we explicitly say that we are now a government that doesn't kill babies." And yet somewhere in the bill, it's the asphyxiation of dogs clause where all dogs are asphyxiated, but the
Oh
don't kill
yeah.
babies bill takes precedent. So they did the same thing, and the conservatives were like, we're not going for it. Like, we're not fucking voting for this. This is not in our self-interest. So then the liberals, of course, turn around and say, "Oh my god, they want to kill all the babies. What the fuck is up with that?"
Yes, they on a big spending bill, it's a way for like the constituents of whoever proposes the bill to tack things on, and it can like, but big, even though it'll start out as like this is the Americans should buy less sugar from overseas bill, and then hi, the gentleman from Indianapolis has the floor. America is haunted by Mesoamerican corn demons, and thus we need more money for the corn lobby, and we have to give them all the money, and then we have to sacrifice all of the orphans that the finders have kidnapped over the past few years and empty out the cages, so the corn demons, especially the big bad corn demon that lives under the Pentagon, can finally be satiated and let loose the slip bondages of the flesh once and for all. Okay, now the gentleman from New Jersey has the floor. Yeah, I want money for my highway. Okay, good. Okay, so the no sugar from overseas bill passed. Like that's that's
That reminds me of this. You ever see this Holden Blood Feast?
Yes, yes. Please, just let me see Iran explode before I die. Like that's yes.
Yeah.
Before his inevitable demise, Holden Blood Feast became a staunch ally of the corn lobby. Please, God, just hold on. Please, God, just let me nuke Iran. Nothing else matters. I'll do anything. Please, I just want to see burning flesh one last time before I die.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So they did the same thing here.
In my mind's eye, I'd like to visualize him like he has an old school wheelchair and he's hooked up to like the blood thing, but like he's speaking telepathically. Like his mouth isn't moving, like his eyes are just jutting, looking at every person individually in the Senate chambers, and he's telepathically speaking. Like people are in vain trying to cover their ears as Holden Bloodfeast's voice grows louder. Images of 6D ayahuasca-induced Mesoamerican corn demons one-shotting the spirit of America when they close their eyes, forcing them to open it and look him.
Corn syrup floating out of their orifices. Yeah, it'd be like a Morton Joe if he was a governor.
Just like have you ever seen the movie Scanners?
No, but isn't that the one with where that's rotoscoped with Keanu Reeves and fucking Alex Jones
Oh, no,
somehow
no, no,
got in
no,
it?
no. That's a Scanner Darkly. There's just an infamous scene in Scanners where a guy's head explodes by use of like telekinesis, and I just imagine just like and, and it's just corn syrup. There you go. But it's just corn syrup. Like
Yeah, basically.
which which by the way, um Scanners is an incredible movie, and there's something very peculiar about art and artists and comedians especially. Like Canadians are a different breed. David Cronenberg, like I believe wrote and directed that movie. And David Cronenberg has made some impeccable fucking films over the decades. First of all, like you ever see the movie The Fly?
No,
With
but I've
Jeff
seen clips of
Goldblum?
it in this and the scenes of it. I haven't seen the
Oh,
whole thing though.
it's that movie is incredible. That's David Cronenberg. Like his earlier work is best known for body horror, but like that's not the point of the film. But the films just happen to have such incredibly cutting edge special effects that like bro, like even some guru and hentai artists to this day consider shit like The Thing by John Carpenter and Videodrome by Cronenberg as like influences.
Oh yeah.
He did a number of like fucked up like quote horror, like body horror quote unquote movies. But over the years, he did so like Eastern Promises with Viggo Mortensen was like, one of my favorite things in the world is how there's no soundtrack to the movie. It's just whatever noise that would accompany what you're seeing on camera.
Hmm.
There's no soundtrack or hardly ever any. Like just and like most music is incidental. That being said, uh he did a movie called the GFE, which is a acronym that you see in ads for hookers online called Girlfriend Experience. It means they'll let you cuddle with them and French kiss them with tongue and shit like that. So he did a movie where it's like there's like a high-end escort and the global and like right after the financial crisis, a high-end escort is like, uh-oh, like not as many clients are calling me back. What do I do? And it's an unusually well put together movie that like you because think about it, like just of all the people to be worried about their finances and forward thinking planning, like a high-end escort.
Yeah, it's gonna be the horror.
It's but remember, this was life before OnlyFans, right? This was life before like webcamming really took off. Like the reason the movie stands out to me is that like it wasn't always like this. Like just if you'll allow me, I'd like to share something from the second book. 1 second, 1 second.
It's like that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where not Michael Burry, but Steve Carell's character realizes it's a bubble because those fucking uh, frosted tip fags start like gloating about their Mercedes and shit because they're selling subprime mortgages to immigrant
Yes.
families. It's like hookers, but except they like have like Lambos and shit. He goes into a strip club and
Yes.
walks out. There's a bubble.
Yes, yes. Okay, okay. E-girl, have feet, earn more money than a doctor. Capitalism works, but not in the way you think it does. So, so there's a bubble. You know what else is a bubble? When like I think women when the Hawk Tuah girl did a meme coin, that's where Steve Carell runs out like a crypto group chat going, "There's a bubble." Hang on. I want to show you something. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, just as a quick side note, I've seen posts on Twitter where like strippers will comment like, "Hey guys, we're in a recession," because I noticed that like my regulars are not coming in nearly as often. And then some economist chimed in, and he's like, "Yeah, actually, things like the strip clubs are actually really good recession indicators because that's like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to men spending their money. So if they're not even spending money at the strip club like that, that's an actual concern. Like, forget the fucking S&P 500, forget Jordan Powell or whatever the fuck his name is, forget the Fed. It's happening at strip clubs first.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, okay, so like, have you ever heard of the Big Mac Index?
Yes, I have actually.
And
Yeah.
if I brought it up when we were on a stream, I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But to anyone listening, TLDR, comparing the purchase power of a currency relative to the cost of a Big Mac from one country to another, it reveals quite a bit of information. So, another indicator, like strip clubs are a great indicator, all right, of the economy. Like, you know what else is? How much a hooker charges for an hour in the country they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And these are because, like, look at how bad things are and where open out loud discussion of the economy isn't allowed because, I mean, according to the news, like, we're like 18 years into a recession that changes shape like a werewolf, and it's never a depression, and it
Mm-hmm.
has all the hallmarks of a depression, but it's a recession, so that means it's not a depression. Like, look, I'm gonna give you watery diarrhea from a camel's asshole, and I'm gonna put sprinkles on it, and I'm like, you want some ice cream, White Pill? I mean, I have a clothespin on my nose, and I'm trying not to look at it. The flies are already here. You want it in a cone?
Yeah. Well,
So that's right. So, um, so hookers are the cost of a hooker is why you gotta respect your local pimp. So, so no, the girlfriend experience is a wild movie because, like, one, this was before camming was a thing and OnlyFans and yada yada yada. But two, like, right as the shit hits the fan, like, who's the first person to notice? Like, a high-end hooker.
yeah.
It's and here's the thing, not entirely unbelievable. Like, that
Absolutely.
kind of makes sense. Like, who wouldn't be sensitive to such things than, like, women of the evening? Um, and so if you don't mind, I have a bit about The Big Short because I'm really glad you mentioned it. If you don't mind, I want to read something about that. But before we get there, please excuse me. I'm gonna read off some following things about Canada and Canadians. Okay. Nothing personal, White Pill. Hopefully, one day someone will cut the internet wires going into Canada. Uh, uh, um, it's always sunny in Philadelphia sugarcoats how incredibly fucked up South Philly is. Just one big shanty town with a few pockets of normalcy. Guess which ones are just petri dishes for gentrification? Surprisingly, Canada beats American exceptionalism in a few areas, such as horrifying urban blight eroding humanity in real time. The downtown east side of Vancouver mogs almost any ghetto in America. It makes LA Skid Row look like Beverly Hills. Um, I, let's see. I stashed some acid and hash under a rock in a Detroit ghetto before crossing into Canada. It was there 5 days later untouched. It has always been this way. Also, I had a hippie neighbor from New Mexico, and he'd always cry when you talk about the current state of Albuquerque. Apparently, it's a Central American tier war zone now. Let's see. Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada. The whole place has an industrial, evil energy. I've had friends move because it feels like Birmingham, England in the 1850s. It's actually stifling. Let's see. Every other month in Canada, city councils from coast to coast are finding new ways to throw money at people who aren't earning it. Canada is what happens when you don't have a First or Second Amendment, let alone the right to defend yourself.
Yep.
What is it about Canada that turns Sikhs into a faction from Grand Theft Auto? JD Vance's wife is just a way to prep Americans for endless Indians once Canada runs out of room. I wonder how much he loves Israel. Canada is sending trans people to Austin, Texas on taxpayer dime to have futa surgery.
This is true.
Um, Canada and England low-key hate one another because they know they can't compete with China in influencing the United States and have conflicting interests and goals with their under-the-radar to infest, with their under-the-radar approach. There we go, approach to infest our culture. Oh no, to infest our culture. There we go. Like for example, we still don't know where Laura Chen is. She might be getting waterboarded in a storage container somewhere in like let's say St. Edward's Island. Um, I'm kidding. No, I'm not. Really though, we still don't know where Laura Chen is. Um, let's see. Here we go. We could be converting our gold into oil. Instead, we're converting it into plastic toilet paper and then give it to Chugs so they can flip it for firewater. The head of the EFA at the Bank of Canada muttered to no one in particular before clocking in for another day. That's kind of mean, actually. I didn't realize how mean that sounded. Canada is the East Germany of North America.
Yep. You could see it from the satellites. We have different light bulbs.
All right, hang on. Here in Canada, we have institutionalized snitching. In a car with 3 other Anons and one has guns or drugs or even a knife, they hold the driver indefinitely until he points the finger or randomly picks one to assign guilt to. Don't want to answer the question from a judge? Enjoy confinement until you do. You gotta stab people in the back to justify your own position. You need to be willing to stab your own children in the back and then look at others with blood on your hands and say, you can trust me. I would rather harm my own than others. When you are willing to sacrifice and shed blood of your own tribe and people, it validates your position. It makes you a true Canadian.
Yep.
Wow. I'm very sorry for doling out the harshness and being mean, but like I hate to say this, but someone's got to say this. All right. Let me cheer everyone up. I trade this to Chinese spies and business moguls in Canada in exchange for pure fentanyl, which I sell for cash in Washington, Oregon, and California. 2 kilos per can, the shipping magnate told me, tapping the one of dozens of shipping freights full of Campbell's chunky soup. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I just wanted some coffee crisp. Like, imagine meeting some mobbed up shipping mogul in Canada and he's talking about trading Campbell's luxury soup for Fent, and you're like, I thought you were the coffee crisp guy. Like, now he has to live in witness protection after killing his way out of Canada by meeting the wrong mobster. Like, he was supposed to meet, like, some Sicilian gangster on, like, Pier 17. He goes to Pier 7 by accident, uncovers, like, a government-wide conspiracy. Now, hang out. Wow, that's kind of mean. Wow, that's really mean. Okay, there's nothing personal, okay?
Of course, yeah, lay it on me. These are all just jokes.
Imagine all the immigrants who fell for the meme that Canada would be a great place to live if they can suffer like the rest of the people already there. You invite them over to help with your collapsing population and tax base. The least you could do is house them.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, the amount of videos that have been popping up of people are like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Fuck this shit. Dude, I work with a woman who's like, fuck this. I'm going back home to the Philippines. I can buy a fucking mountain there, which is exactly what she's doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Like, and this is something people don't understand, that like it's not like it's more common than you'd think, where like a guy comes here and works like a dog for 20 years and then goes back home to build a house on the land he purchased from the government. Like,
Yeah.
that's a thing. You know what? This is something I think about in my country. I wonder what the numbers are in yours. I long for the day a man runs on a platform in America on like some like let's say like senator or congressman, and he proposes that all the money that gets sent overseas, like through Western Union or remittances, are taxed. Stop and think of how many Chinese and Mexican illegal immigrants in America send money back home. Okay? Stop and think of how much money Indians and Chinese are sending to their families back home in Canadian dollars relative to rupees, or like, what do they use in China for money? Bug shells? I don't know, the yuan?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, bug shells. So think of how many bug shells you could get for like 15 Canadian. And if you're lucky, you make 15 Canadian off the books an hour, washing dishes because you're better at English than, Han over here, who's mute. It's not his fault. He just gets paid $14 an hour to send back for bug shell collecting purposes for his family back in like Mugugaipan or wherever the fuck his family's from. So so yeah, oh, his cousin in Hunan beef. I hope she's doing well. All right, I'll stop. I'll stop. That's so.
Oh God.
For the record, Hunan beef is actually really tasty. Like every once in a blue moon, I'll order something off the Chinese takeout menu I've never tried before. Cause like I've been ordering the same shit like for half my life. So I remember like a couple months ago on a whim, I'm like, what the fuck is shrimp toast? I see that not available in every takeout place, and it turns out it's just like deep fried shrimp to the point it's like holding a piece of toast. It's almost like a shrimp patty. You could feel the salt and oil destroying capillaries in your face as you take into every bite, but it's pretty good. Very rare when you eat something seafoody and it's fried and you don't want condiments or like tartar sauce. So I greatly recommend it. Hey, Chink food's not bad. Even though there's a difference between takeout and cuisine, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Every year, doctors in Canada kill 25 times more people than assault rifles in America.
This is true, and sometimes they do it voluntarily, and sometimes they're a water veteran and also Paralympian who, instead of getting a fucking acorn stair lift, is recommended that she kill herself, which actually did happen.
Yes, which is weird because I didn't expect Canada to be so awful to their veterans like we are here in America.
Oh, we're
'Cause here in
not. It's
America,
compassionate. We give them the chance to kill themselves. What do you mean? That's
well, yeah,
compassionate.
that's actually a lot nicer than 10% off at Denny's after coming back partially exploded. Not bad.
Exactly.
So, you also get there's a mattress sale. Yeah. So, um, uh, every day, 9/11 happened so America could have cheap mattresses from casualties in Iraq. You could quote me on that.
That's right.
Every day, a Canadian child runs from their neighborhood park in tears, telling their parents stinky in the playground because they saw an Indian taking a dump out in the open. She's a 10, but she's French Canadian.
That's a toughie. That's a toughie.
And then, like 100 pages later, she's a 10, but she's Canadian.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair.
No. For what it's worth, though. For what it's worth. No. It's sort of an acquired taste. There's a line in the first book to the effect of like funny looking cute outpunches hot more than sometimes, especially if it's like your kind of funny looking cute. All men, and I'm sure women are actually much more prone to this than men. Women are much more forgiving about how a man looks and even what they look like when their clothes are off. If just by how they make them feel, and even if they could just make them laugh. I'm dead serious. Like
Oh,
women
absolutely. Yeah.
are much more forgiving than like men would be led to believe. So sometimes a guy has a certain type, and like the heart wants what the heart wants. Like I like it like the guy who edited the first book. If you were to give him like a tall, like horse-faced looking girl that looks like the daughter of a farmer, he would take her 9 times out of 10 over like any exotic model or any like you can't tell what nationality I am, but I'm fucking hot type looking girls.
Yeah.
big titties, big asses, like fucking $700 an hour Dominican hookers that operate out of a 3-star Midtown Manhattan hotel. Right, that if he gets the horse-faced Scandinavian-looking farm girl, like he goes weak in the knees. Like, and they have to be like kind of androgynous looking too.
Just a little
Like,
bit.
yeah, just but like when he sees it, like that's it. Like all gloves are off, and like so. That being said, like a woman like Nev Campbell doesn't exist in America. But if that's like, if you think she's cute, like that's like a funny looking cute way up your alley. And I've met Canadian girls that kind of look like Nev Campbell. It's actually funny. I dated a girl who was half Sicilian, half like Anglo honky Canadian stock, and she kind of looked like a cross between, because like Sicilians are cousins to Greek
Mm-hmm.
to Greek people. So she looked like a cross between Nev Campbell and like the really hot Greek girls that are dressed modestly going to church on Sunday. I
Huh.
just and right. So like some Canadian broads, it's not always a bad way, but like if I've mentioned this on the stream, white people in Canada look different than white people in America. Ain't no niggas here that look like John Candy or Mike Myers or the cast of SCTV. Like, not really.
Yeah.
Like, that's not like, except maybe Rick Moranis, because like he's Jewish, but like you could easily mistake Rick Moranis for like some Jewish guy in the Lower East Side in like the 1970s or 80s, or like people look like him still in Brooklyn. So I guess like that's the only exception. I'm not saying that to go like LOL Jew. No, I'm just like of all the people on SCTV, because like all of even the women look distinctly Canadian to me at least. She's a 10, but she's Canadian, because like objectively she's a 10, but if she's not your type, it's pointless, you know. And to kind of circle back to she's a 10, but she's French Canadian. I have never heard a story of a woman learning French to date a French Canadian man. It is almost always an Anglo or a non French Canadian man learning French to date a French Canadian woman. It's always the other way around, right?
Yeah. Well, that's from what I've
Yeah,
heard. Yeah. I don't know of any broads that would go that far.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, they'll fuck them, but they won't learn French. Um, American women be like spread their legs for anything with an accent. Imagine I said the asterisks out loud. Uh, so here we go. Ooh, okay. Here's something. Uh, okay. World War I Canadian soldiers were infamously deranged. They massacred a lot of German soldiers trying to surrender. The Krauts used to call them stormtroopers. In their defense, they came from an environment which basically no violent conflict whatsoever occurred, and then were dropped into the combat zone that inspired Tolkien to create the land of Mordor. They were also among the very first people to be attacked with mustard gas. They didn't even know what it was at first. It does grotesque things to guys hit with it, that gas. Men who watched their friends, cousins, and brothers choke to death on that shit after a lifetime in which a hockey game was the most violence they'd experienced. They kind of went insane. They often wouldn't accept surrenders. They were very angry. After the war, and even before it fully ended, the Empire and the Entente side in general had to admit that the Canucks went overboard.
Yeah, it's not the list of war crimes. It's not the Geneva war crimes. It's the Geneva checklist.
Yes, yes. Just real quickly, me. Why does that actress look like she's Canadian? Is she Canadian? She looks off. Pixel flip. I actually don't know. I did see she got the handsome Squidward beauty work done though. Her chin could make a diamond blood. I like how handsome Squidward is now the standard for like things like overhauls or plastic surgery.
Yeah, it's like Bruce Jenner, but in the SpongeBob universe.
Yes, yes. 1 second. Here we go. In 2011, Canadian miner discovered an almost perfectly preserved 110 million year old nodosaur. Scientists regard this as the most well-preserved dinosaur ever found, with its bones still encased in remarkably intact skin and armor. Go Canada! Um, Today, a Canadian installed Spotify and started scrolling for stations. Half of them are Punjabi.
I believe it. And that dinosaur bit, I actually, at the beginning of the show today, um, I covered a little bit like of trivia regarding dinosaurs. Canada is apparently responsible for like 15% of the dinosaur supply in the world, which is like not a fact that I really hear all that often. And I was like, man, like we are so overdue for some new fucking propaganda and something to unite the people. And I feel like dinosaurs should be a bigger part of that conversation because what the actual fuck? We have 50, dude, we have 15% of the world's supply of dinosaurs. Like that's not nothing because it's like 20% are in China. There's a good chunk of them that are like in the States as well. It's like, how is that not a point of national pride? That's fucking incredible. How is this not a bigger deal? I don't understand. Well, because we're not 8 and we forgot how to look up at the stars and wonder. Are you fucking kidding me? What kind of a bullshit excuse is that?
I think it's probably going to be used as like a last-ditch effort. Like when we get to DEFCON 2 of shit getting bad, when not even the McRib can say, when not even, hold on, the Canadian McRib only available in Canada. So then like it makes like tourism dollars from America go to Canada because of course Americans are like, I want the burger, at all costs. And and then it's like works in conjunction with the US government because they're like, think of all the fucking fat lard asses and the cheesecake elementals and the ham galaxies and the fucking tubba-lard looking motherfuckers with ham magnets in their mouth who sweat cold onion gravy and bleed ragu. They gotta update their passport to eat that McRib. Right. So it's America and Canada working together to kind of lean on each other before the collapse is total.
Yeah, and they time it so that when it's your off season, it's our on season.
Yes, yes. So then suddenly the CBC is like, why are there so many fatties tonight on the news? Well, the Canadian McRib, right? And like like somebody will be live streaming. They're gonna be like, hey, so we're not talking about the dinosaurs anymore. What's up with that? And he gets extraordinarily renditioned and black bagged like on live stream. And like the CBC has to pretend like it never. In fact, like there'll be like a. I don't know if you remember this. There was an incident in like 2007 where like some elected official was talking somewhere, and a guy just started yelling in protest about some shit, and security was like trying to stop him, and he wasn't having it, and then he went, "Don't tase me, bro!"
Yeah.
And he proceeded to get, and he proceeds to shriek.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's so good.
So, I've always wondered if anyone would ever like sample that in like a song, like or like I've been waiting for it. So there's gonna be a Canadian version of that. Someone's gonna be like, but what are we not gonna talk about the Smithsonian Center being opened in fucking Toronto because of this whole dinosaur thing? Look, your Canadian McRib can't. And then like he's like, you see like 3 dudes in suits and sunglasses, like one cups his mouth with his hand and the other 3 just pick him up and whisk him away. So to your point, Whitepill, this will not happen until Canada hits DEFCON 2. It's good. They're gonna bust out the dinosaur McRib 1-2. They're gonna like lure you in with the dinosaurs, and then McDonald's shareholders need a new gold-plated yacht, baby. So,
Yeah.
I will say though, 15% of the world's dinosaur fossils. I mean, considering the size of Canada, it sort of lends itself to like, what else is in the country that doesn't exist on the border? Like, imagine there's like ancient alien tech, like somewhere between like Manitoba and Yellowknife, like 3,000 feet under the ground. Maybe, I don't know. All right. So hear me out. Hear me out. I would like to share one last thing before I'm done with the interlude and intermission. Okay.
Sure.
The Big Short. There's actually something I want to get your opinion on, and you'll get it. You'll hear it at the very end. Okay, of this thing.
Okay.
So this chapter's called, and it's not long, but it's called "No One Snowflake is to Blame for the Avalanche." But, all right, so it's about the financial collapse thing. All right, so we'll get to it. Look up the Community Reinvestment Act, passed in 1977. But Clinton added some shit to that in 1995, which basically said lenders had to lend to people who couldn't demonstrate they could pay back the loans or else face federal consequences. This started the subprime loan frenzy, which lent assloads of money to people who couldn't pay it back. And as long as the housing market was going up, they could sell or refinance rather than default. But the banks knew there were a ton of shit loans out and created financial instruments to package these shit loans to pass the risk to investors who bought them up, thus spreading the risk everywhere. When the housing market ate shit in 2006, it all started to come tumbling down. Loan defaults skyrocketed, foreclosures skyrocketed, and all these financial instruments ate shit, so everyone took a bath. This came to a head in 2008 with the financial crisis, and we're still suffering as a result. Now we get to the good part. So, in the special thanks of my first book is my homie Vincent Goodwell. A unique characteristic in the second book is that, like, I quoted people from a great number of places in the first book. Now, among the people I'm quoting are direct people you could trace back to the special thanks or the special thanks in the second book. You know? So, to quote my friend Vincent Goodwell in the special thanks of the first book, banks were giving variable rate mortgages to people who couldn't afford them because the US economy and dollar was an unstoppable juggernaut, so the rates were 0% or close to it. When the variable part kicked in, the rates skyrocketed, and all the people who had loans they theoretically couldn't afford suddenly actually couldn't afford them, and then there was mass default on mortgage debts across the United States. This caused several large banks to go under, which then led to a massive backlash against the world's financial system. Then the Fed introduced qualitative easing, essentially funneling tax money to various sectors of industry to prop them up to try to salvage what they could. This is the point where the U.S. government openly became a smash and grab organization. Just mercenary politicians getting what they can out of the system. Those QA policies ended up ruining their course around the time COVID happened. I think the inflation bills were an attempt to hide the actual damage of 2008. Watch The Big Short. It's a good flick that gives a decent rundown. The four main characters are played by the most charming men of the day: Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling, Christian Bale, and Steve Carell. So you know the guys who pulled it off were fucking hideous. And here you go. You know, there are things about the economy that, like, Whitepill. The intro to the second book is basically, hold on, I don't want to fuck this up. Here we go. Someone smarter should have said or written this down in a book by now, but here we are. Like,
yeah,
it's not like a necromancer just went zim zim zaladu zaladim, and then everyone woke up and eggs were $7. Like, that's not how it happened. And there are people who say it happened that way, and they're like, it's the regime. Ooh. ooh, big bad scary nebulous open-ended no clearly defined phantom ooh. Like no, that didn't like that's some of the gayest shit you can ever hear a human being ever say. And there are a lot of people out there that are like, yeah, the regime. Yeah, yeah. It's the regime who cut you off in fucking traffic, right? It's the regime why, you got a fucking overcharged draft on your bank statement. Yeah, it's the regime. It's not events that preceded your birth on this earth. No, never. Nah. Clinton never happened. No. So, it's important to talk about these things to me because, other than the book Griftopia by Matt Taibbi, I don't know of a single person that was able to explain what the fuck happened in 2008, 2009 that led to where we are now. And The Big Short is sort of a weird thing for me because, like, it's almost like enough time has passed so we could clearly see that we truly are in decline and it started here. Like, it's a weird concession consolation prize. I cannot help but feel that, like, what movie studio is responsible for The Big Short? Like, I'm curious if it was done by a major studio or if it was like just a smaller thing. I really want to know. Can you look that up for me, dude?
It's distributed by Paramount Pictures, but production company was done by Regency Enterprises and Plan B Entertainment. But Regency, they are they made The Northman. That was a sick one. The Lighthouse, with what's his face, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe.
That's
There
right.
ye are, post and cringe.
That's right. You made the Alvin Chipmunk series. What else? Birdman. Gone
dude,
Girl.
have you seen Birdman?
No, but it's on my list.
It's incredible. And fun fact, like the movie is one take. Yes, that's actually a thing. It's very powerful. And there's a scene where Michael Keaton's character, the protagonist, he walks through Times Square in just his underwear and like socks, I think, and all of the reactions that are caught on film were like in real time, no prep, honest to God, people going, "Oh my God, it's Michael Keaton!" Like it just like it's actually kind of hilarious. Like it's a good movie. You should check it out. So Paramount, but it was a smaller production like thing that was okay because like I'm tempted to be cynical and be like, oh, like some movie executive was like, show them why they're suffering so they'll keep eating shit for a while. Okay, boss. And then okay, take one, action. I'm the guy from Drive. I do bad shit to the economy. And then, I'm the dum-dum from Anchorman. Everyone loves me.
Yeah, or Margot Robbie. They got her into in that role too. They got a bunch of like famous people, which like also surprised me when I saw it. I was like, oh, like you guys, like you're directly attached to all these financiers, and the ads that you do are directly funded by some of these investment firms that actually had a role in this. Like you're not worried at all about how this might feel. Like it is genuinely kind of like surprising when you think about it, how not only was the movie that big, but that it got so many heavy hitters and people that are now like fully fledged in Hollywood, um that were part of it. It's kind of it's kind of a shock. It's like, oh, like they let that happen? Like what the fuck?
Right, well, yes. And again, to emphasize my homie, Mr. Goodwell, like, he's convinced, and I never thought about it until he pointed it out. He was like, they got, like, the widest net you can cast for the leading men.
Mm-hmm.
For, like, people to kind of, like, overlook. Oh, like, okay, you ever see the movie Goodfellas?
Oh, hell yeah. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I fucking love Goodfellas.
Okay, so you know how like every 10 to 15 minutes you reminded that these guys are violent psychopaths, but between those like moments you get like levity, small talk, you get shades of
Mm-hmm.
humanity from them. You're like, look, like one of my favorite bits is when like they're waiting for the Copacabana to catch fire, and Tommy's like, Henry, I got a favor to ask you. No. What do you mean no? I haven't even asked you. No, no. Come on, I didn't even right. And then he's like, I'm dating this. I've been trying to fuck this Jew broad for the past 3 weeks, but she won't go out with me unless she brings a date for her friend. Imagine that. Prejudice against Italians in this day and age. No, no, I knew it was going to be something. I said, no. What the fuck, Henry? What the fuck are you even doing on Saturday? I got that thing with Tootie. You could do the fucking thing with Tootie when we're done. Oh, come on. Right. And as all this is happening, the Copacabana is slowly catching on fire in the background. And there's like music playing, like nice early 60s black women singing music playing as all this happened. Right.
Yeah.
So you have these moments like this before you're reminded, oh, they're career criminals who won't hesitate to take human life. Okay. So
Yeah.
with The Big Short, my homie was like, okay, they got master thespian guy who went from playing the machinist, where he was like 6 pounds, and then he played Bruce Wayne immediately afterwards, who was like 20 pounds of muscle, like 15 pounds of muscle more than his actual regular weight. So like Christian Bale's a great actor.
Oh yeah.
I'm really partial to him, but he's an immediately like noticeable face. Okay. And just the fact that Christian Bale isn't like Christian Bale could be sitting in a room listening to auto-tuned tuba solos for 2 hours, and there are enough dudes who will see it just because he beat up Bane and American Psycho. You could put Christian Bale in anything, and all right, um, Steve Carell. I think he's actually a really good actor, and not only is he really fun, like he's no one can do what he does because anyone attempting to do what Steve Carell does just comes off like they're doing forced awkward. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
he did a really good role in Foxcatcher. I don't know if you saw that one.
yes, he's an incredible fucking actor.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And what's scary is that if you look at footage of the DuPont that he played, like he did a really good job playing the stunted Delaware royalty. Yeah, don't even look at my mother. Don't. No.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he did a great job. He I didn't take him seriously as an actor until I saw him in Little Miss Sunshine. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
his character's plot line was actually like, the scene where he hides from his ex at the gas station convenience store made me realize like, oh, that was such like relatable sheer panic and terror of running into your ex. And like never mind that he played a gay guy in the movie. Like he expressed the sheer panic and terror of running into an ex that you did not break up with on good terms. Like that was one of the most believable things I've ever seen in a movie. So, but also like what he does in The Office, like he's my favorite part in Anchorman, really. Like I don't care how quotable that movie is. It is a funny movie. It's a great movie, but like Brick Tamlin, I like in how in the intro he's like, "Hello, I'm Brick Tamlin. I have an IQ." He's pouring mayonnaise into a toaster. "I have an IQ of 60, but I'm polite and always on time. I'm legally categorized as retarded, but no one seems to notice." Like
Yeah.
he's 60, but he's polite and on time. That's 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 all the backstory and context you need. All right, so he's sort of like America's sweetheart in a way. Like if you don't like Steve Carell, there's probably something wrong with you. If you don't like
I'd
him as
say.
an actor, if you don't like him as like I understand if you don't like him as an actor, you like him as a funny man, or you don't like him as a funny man, but you like him as an actor. If you don't like him for either one, something wrong with you. Then there's the guy from Drive. That's I don't have to go into any further detail. Because he's a
Canadian.
fucking leaf. Because he's a fucking leaf.
That's right.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. And who's number 4? Who am I? Brad Pitt. Oh, again.
That's right.
Fucking, the curious case of Benjamin Button himself. Brad Pitt. So, like, you got as many user-friendly faces with bodies of work that speaks for itself. Like just that. All right, you ever see the movie American Hustle?
I think I know the one. Yes, that is a great movie. Yes.
Yes. Part of what made the movie so fun to watch is that, like, Bradley Cooper as an FBI agent, Christian Bale as like a fat sleazy con man, the guy who played Hawkeye as a corrupt Bronx senator, and Louis C.K. playing an assistant an assistant bumbling FBI director.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because people were like, I was willing to give it a shot just because of, like, the cast. Like, I kind of didn't care what role they were playing. I just figured, like, what if it's good? So the cast of The Big Short made me think, I mean, like, I don't think actors of such fame and caliber would want to do a script that is incorrect, right? Like I don't think actors of that caliber and fame would want their name and face lent to something that incorrectly tells the story of how the economy crashed. So there's got to be some relative truth to this plot line. Now,
Oh yeah. Christian Bale is my shit test for movies like that, where I'm unsure and I see him in the actor thing. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie. This is gonna be good.
yes. I find, like, my homie Vincent finds it very suspicious that, like, you could have gotten actors who are incredible but might not be, like, the most handsome dudes on earth. Like, you could have gotten Daniel Day-Lewis and he probably would have, like, lived in a filing cabinet for 6 months in an office illegally to build character and get into you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Willem Dafoe.
which, yeah, you could have easily gotten Willem Dafoe, like, especially if there's a character that freaks out and loses it at some point in the movie. Willem Dafoe. Just you need
Martin Sheen, if he was still alive then.
Oh, that's true.
And he did do what's his face? He did Wall Street, didn't he? The original one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, you could have but it's kind of funny because, like, the he came back for the second Wall Street movie, but, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, there are some this, and it wasn't always like this.
Oh, he's still alive. Never mind. Yeah, he's still alive.
Oh yeah, it was Val Kilmer who died of eating pussy, right? Not him.
That's right.
I'm kidding. You know what's weird though? Val Kilmer grew up Christian Scientist, so, like, even though he was, like, coughing, it wasn't until he was coughing up blood and his kids were like, "Dad, you should see a doctor."
Wow. That's sad. 'Cause I really liked him in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. That was a really good role for him.
Yeah, he was really good. In like, I liked him as an actor, and I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but he like he had an unusual amount of range for, like, a pretty boy, but he wasn't like I don't know, like, if you start out as, like, look, he could have done everything he wanted after Top Secret. I still would have watched him because Top Secret's one of the greatest movies of all time. And to Val Kilmer's credit, he sung That's his voice in every song in the soundtrack. I like that his character did. He's probably best known for his role as flaming gay guy number 2 in Top Gun. Flaming gay guy number 1 being played, of course, by
Tom
totally
Cruise.
not gay Tom Cruise.
That's
Right?
right.
But no, I thought he was a really good actor. I rather liked him, but it's weird because not to be mean, but like he got kind of fat over time, and like I don't like. I'm not trying to be mean or nothing, right? But like, if you're gonna bloat Max, oh, I love how it's described in Come Town. They were talking about Steven Seagal and how Nick said he has the Entenmann donut. He has the Entenmann donuts goatee, and he spends half the movie sitting, and is just like, "What's that? Huh? What's that?" Right. So like, if you're gonna bloat Max all the way like Steven Seagal. You can't be like, "I gained 40 pounds. I'm wearing a blazer. I was Batman." Like there was
Yeah.
something kind of sad about that. Um. Anyways. So to my friend's point, the fact that they got like the most handsome, charming, likable, user interface friendly, lovable, America's sweetheart, enduring bodies of work, you might remember them from such films and TV shows such as The Thing You Like and The Office. So, he's convinced the people who pulled this off were hideous, like, what did he call them? He was like, they're like a hideous hybrid between Hobgoblin and Gremlin. Like, whoever pulled this off, they have to be like ugly Mad Magazine caricatures from the 50s level unattractive. Like, he's convinced the studio went out of their way to get like Johnny Handsome, Billy Moist Panties, Steve Carell, and Brad Pitt.
Well, they're not all classically handsome.
That's true. I mean, what the fuck? Wait, what's that? Oh,
That's what they look like.
Speaking of Ryan Gosling, I'm really sorry, but hold on. In the first book, I bring him up twice. 1, Ryan Gosling from the movie Drive, but he has Down syndrome. 2, father figure motion picture starring Ryan Gosling and directed by Sam Hyde. You know the character Sam Hyde plays in Father Figure?
No,
And
I
the
don't.
way... Oh, sweet. Okay, you know what? All right. I gotta make my way out in a little bit. Your assignment, if you choose to accept it, is to watch Father Figure by Sam Hyde. Because he plays a very specific kind of character with a very specific kind of cadence. And it sounds a lot like when Ryan Gosling is coming off as, like, threatening.
Okay.
Like, and like, I have no other way to put it. But please do yourself a favor and watch Father Figure and imagine Ryan Gosling playing the character Sam Hyde is playing.
Okay, I'll give it a watch.
I'm unironically saying this, like, dead ass, as the kids like to say.
I believe you.
So, give me 1 second. Alrighty. So, before I forget, what are the results of the Leaf election so far?
I think it's over, man. Pretty sure the Liberals won, and I think as we were talking
What's the
there,
score?
it's 165 to 147. So the Liberals won. I don't think it's enough for a majority though. So they're going to run a minority government and potentially make ties with the NDP, but I highly doubt it because the NDP leader literally came out like this past weekend saying don't trust a Liberal. So I think they've kind of tanked all chances unless the Liberals are really desperate for team up with somebody else. I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen, but it looks like we have at least 2 more years before they can trigger an election or change anything, because which is really disheartening, because at the end of the day, like, federal government can do whatever the fuck it wants, and few of us really have a choice or say in what they do, because realistically, unless you have the ear of the donors or you are a mega donor, there's not really any influence that you can peddle. So the libs get the run of the mill again, and there's no surprise with what McCartney's gonna do, because he wrote a book about what kind of values he has. It's literally called Values, and he talks about how he supports ESG and all these different policies that have failed. And he has a guy on his team who's part of this initiative called, I think it's like the Canada 100, where by 2100 they want to make it so that Canada has a population of 100 million. And he is on the campaign team. So even though he ran as I'm not Trudeau, I think Carney is going to do the exact same thing that Trudeau has done, except press it even further. Because when he tabled his financial bill, the top economists came out and they said, "Oh, this is going to add like 200 billion to our deficit." And Trudeau has spent more money than every politician before him combined in the 10 years' time, and they want to accelerate that. So it's not looking good, but it's yet another reminder to just try to do what you can. Focus on your block, focus on your neighbors, focus on making yourself more resilient so that you're not at the behest of the government, or that you have to put yourself in a position where you rely on their assistance, because that always comes with a price. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Will say,
Yeah.
I will say that one, the fact that liberals are depicted as blue, right, and conservatives are red.
Other way around.
Oh, it's the other way around.
Other way around. Red is for liberal.
Oh, because like, because that's
for you guys it's
like,
different. Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing the map is kind of weird to me, because it's like, of course, the areas outside major cities would vote this way, and the areas around them, and it's like opposite day map.
Oh, none of this matters. None of, there's like 20 people that live here. In the territories, I did the math. It's like 100,000 people, which is like a medium-sized town. And the only districts that really matter is this corridor from Windsor going all the way to Quebec, which makes up 50% of Canada's population. So realistically, the ridings, the places that actually mattered, is all of Toronto here. They won a majority of seats here, and some pockets here, and then in Quebec, big time red. Everything else doesn't matter. Oh wow, you got a chunk of the fucking Northwest Territory, none of it. Holy shit, dude! like, there's like 5 Eskimos there. Like, what are you talking about?
You're fighting for the honor of 3 chugs, 2 of which are undead and kept alive by the dark arts.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a political pundit. I don't know what this means moving forward in terms of the kind of legislation they want to push or anything like that. At the end of the day, the way that I look at it is, we can only reject reality so long until it actually bites us in the ass. And we've slowly but surely been kind of getting those indicators where, like, 1 year for this one fair that happens in Toronto for 2 weeks in August. The summer 2 years ago, they had 20,000 applicants, which is up like 50% from the year before, of like kids, going on summer break and just wanting a job before school starts. And then it went up to almost 40,000 applicants literally the next year, because all the fucking short-term immigrants that came here for a work visa, they signed up for it. And just about every footage that you see of a job fair is just full of people that are age ranged from 16 to 50, because they're all not low status jobs, but low skilled labor jobs that are now getting picked up by immigrants. 5 million of which their visas are about to expire. So I don't know if our prime minister is gonna arm the fucking border agents with stormtrooper armor like the Germans thought the Canadians had back then to fucking hunt them down, which I highly doubt because it wasn't even an issue in the campaign. Nobody even talked about it. So just back to my point about like rejecting reality, like, okay, fine, like push your carbon tax, like cut the pipelines, push for this green energy shit. Fine, like make people pay $20 for a head of lettuce. Okay, we will persevere. We'll find a way through. But at some point, like these people are gonna find out where you live, and they're not gonna like what you have to say or what you want to do to them. And it's only a matter of time. Like there was a report right after the convoy finished where the RCMP basically said if social conditions deteriorate in Canada to a point, there is going to be some real fucking problems with people not obeying the law. And if Brampton over the last 5 years became the fucking auto theft capital of Canada to the point where surrounding communities had a meeting with the police where they told people to keep their car keys by their door to make it easier for thieves to break in. Well, if that's where we got after 10 years, by all means, keep pushing this shit. Eventually, people are going to get fed up and some really ugly shit is going to happen. Like, I don't like saying that. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong, Stain Haynes. I want to be wrong, and I want to have a decent job, and I don't want to live in a fucking basement or have to pay out the ass for food. I would much rather be wrong. But if things keep going this way, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it's gonna be wrong, and I don't like that. I want my family to be safe. I want my friends to be safe. I want to be able to have a future.
Well, you could join me at the I told you so table anytime. Kick your feet up, make yourself at home. It'll be great. Understandably, those are very real concerns, and I think there are okay. Not to advocate such things, but I think in the early 1600s, there were people who like captured and killed and ate like a member of Dutch royalty. And the lesson is something to the effect of like, sometimes you have to remind people in power that they are made of forbidden carnitas. You should not eat the carnitas, but they should be reminded that it's always an option on the table. Okay? And you're not wrong because, like, between you and I think what you described is gonna happen, but it's okay. Between you and I think the guts of the average Canadian has increased to where, like, wasn't there a guy who just openly flipped off Mark Carney? Like, and it was like an older guy, and he was just smiling at the camera, had no qualms being like on video or getting photographed flipping off Mark Carney. Like,
No,
it was
that wasn't even it. It's even funnier. This guy's called the Brantford Boomer, and he was at a campaign, or not a campaign. He was at a voting rally. Let me pull his photo up. This guy right here.
I love how this guy has a name. Yes, that hero.
Yeah, the Brantford. No. Here's the thing. So when people posted this, as they do on the internet, they imparted their values and belief systems and interpretations and all that fucking shit because it's it's a take
internet.
Did
I
it's
fall
a take
for
market.
it too? Oh no.
Yeah,
oh,
no. But that wasn't even the take. The hot take was this image right here is exactly like what is. Or one of the symptoms that's wrong with Canada is that these boomers keep voting for these fucking lefty policies because they like to put themselves on the progressive side and say that they're heroes or whatever the fuck, because they can kick their feet up at their cottage or at their summer home in Florida or whatever the fuck, and they're fine because they bought their house for a hay nickel, and got their job with a firm handshake or two, and managed to find their wife when they were 18, and everything was given to them. Meanwhile, they're fucking over the next generation, and they're happy about it, and they're smiling. That people imparted that meaning onto him. From my interpretation from reading his story, he was at a voting booth place, and there was some protesters from either the conservative side or whatever that came around and were just like yelling slogans at people, and that's retarded because like why, like you're not going to change their minds, so you're just going there to farm impressions because you need content or whatever the fuck. So this guy, just being a boomer, he's just like, oh well, fuck you guys, like I'm annoyed at your signs or whatever. And so the whole internet blew up. People found out where he worked, started harassing his wife's like business that she sold years ago, and all this other shit. And it's like he didn't even do anything. He's not even like he wasn't even like shouting slogans. He wasn't even getting angry. He just had this one moment where he flipped the camera off because he was just frustrated and wanted to have a laugh or whatever the fuck. And I just saw that as just, the internet misinterpreting things or imparting their meaning on it, when in reality, like, this guy's not a crusader. He's not, like, he wasn't out there being like, I want to suck Mark Carney's cock. Like, no, that's the way he votes. He didn't even explain his political ideals. Like, it was a nothing burger that they turned into a whole thing.
That's the funniest part. And wow, I am certainly caught red-handed, but this is important to explain because everyone loves a good old-fashioned digital lynching, so I'm sure that entertained people for a couple of days. But like, okay, if you'll allow me to give a better example, okay?
To your point there, I just before you start, when you were talking about like the climate of like people like wanting to eat the carnitas of the politicians, years ago when Trudeau held his election during COVID, this is the first time I've ever seen it happen. Somebody fucking threw rocks at his tour bus, and people were like just harassing him everywhere he went. There's footage of a guy from a rooftop in Toronto in some neighborhood watching Trudeau walk the street, just yelling at him, "Fuck you! You ruined this country!" Like all. So yeah, the temperature has gone up.
There's a whole supercut of people openly belittling the Prime Minister of Canada, like wherever he goes in public.
Oh
and
yeah,
in fact,
yeah.
I remember the guy, Jagmeet. He was in Newfoundland, and some guy, you could clearly see in the background. He's like, Jagmeet, you suck cock. You suck cock, Jagmeet. What? And like and then the guy's like, that is a very homophobic thing to say, and blah 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 blah. But it was. Okay, are you familiar at all with Ren and Stimpy?
Yes.
Okay, George Liquor, that character?
I'll look him up, but I probably know him.
Look up the character George Liquor, and he's a character that, like, God, it sounds like George C. Scott. He's this like, hold on, or just type in, the goddamn George Liquor show, but like the alcohol liquor.
Oh, this guy.
There you go. Okay, so the guy who screamed was the Canadian version of that. Like, Jagmeet, you suck cock. And then, like, catching, like in D&D, you catch everyone flat-footed. You are, like, hitting them before combat even started. No one has rolled for initiative yet, and there's already a guy who shows up in a speeding van and comes to a complete halt and goes, Jagmeet, you suck cock! And now everyone turns around, he says it again, and just speeds off. Like, you see, a nothing to lose drive in a Canadian stands out more so because, like, everyone is sort of expected to, like, not disturb, like, the herd, right?
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, there's a Newfoundland tradition of belittling and mocking public figures when they show up. So there has always been a spirit in Canada. Like, after all, I don't know what it is about you guys, but like, your arson rate puts our arson rate to shame, and there are a lot fewer of you guys than there are of us. I'd like to chalk it up to burning shit to stay warm at night, but you also burned down our White House. So, yeah, I don't. There's definitely like there are Canadians capable of total mayhem and complete bloodshed. Sure. I think it's because it is the remnants of Anglo stock that survived World War II, maybe. Also, alcoholic chugs that do things like rape and migrants and Muslims and honor killings. That's also a part of the violent character. Oh, and Haitians and Africans. And why do so many stolen cars from Canada end up in Africa? Anyways, the point is, people are no longer afraid of repercussions because if they were, they wouldn't open their mouth. And a lot of people have been opening their mouth. And it's strange that for the first time in my life, I've never seen Canadians be openly hostile to their own. Like, I, I, I would have expected something like some international case where, like, an Ontario father of four is currently facing first degree murder charges. I mean, in America, he would have just been giving manslaughter, but he murdered 3 Somali gang members who were armed to the teeth with his bare hands, and he's charged for 3 counts of first degree murder. Here in Canada, we're just going to call him Hitler and burn him at the stake. Back to you at the newsroom, Jenny. Thank you, Tom. I am TrannyBot. I am Jenny. Ha 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 ha. Heritage moment. Right. Like so, so the world outside Canada will see that and be like, wow, that's fucked up. He's gonna die for doing the right thing. Like, right. There's it that's sort of like Trudeau's legacy because like before a Canadian is put on trial for defending his family in a country where you're not legally allowed to defend your family, before that happened, were people screaming at the prime minister. Which, like, action expresses priority, okay? How bad is it that people are afraid of being seen as racist if they fight back against someone who breaks into their home? But they'll call Trudeau a faggot when they see him in public. Like, if someone were to call Trump a faggot in public, this guy's gonna get jumped by like half of everyone who's there. And it's gonna be like the worst gang beating you will ever see witnessed on camera. And then you're gonna watch a man fall into a seizure and his arms are gonna be stretched out. And right-wing Twitter accounts are gonna be like, based. That's what happens if you call Trump a faggot, you know? Or like a couple of years ago, if Biden was in public and you called him a faggot, you'd be assassinated right there on the spot, probably by like that fat woman Secret Service bitch, Officer
Oh,
Tubby,
yeah.
whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The donut golem. That's the fucking Bear Claw McGee over there. Or like you would have been doxxed, Antifa would have firebombed your car. Someone would have like thrown a cinder block through your bedroom window, and then someone would have like put a cage next to the opening and then opened the cage door, and now there's a pit bull in your bedroom. You know? That would have happened if you called Joe Biden a faggot. Evidently, there are people lining up to call Justin Trudeau a faggot whenever he was in public. That's like, I don't. It's. I hate to say this, dude, but like, remember that South Park episode where they were making fun of Family Guy, and then it turns out they have like the manatees in the ball
Yeah.
pit, and it's like Mexico, Gary Coleman flashback, like La Casa Bonita, and then you think that's bad? Remember that one time I went to Casa Bonita with Gary Oldman? What you talking about, Willis? Like it's okay. So which, by the way, there is a version of that, but with like a vice journalist throwing a dildo that sticks to the wall, and he keeps throwing it like a pie chart. Right. That's
and then
genius.
it's real. And then it's real. Then it's a real story. Like trans like fucking drag queens in Guatemala selling cocaine
yeah.
to fuel their
Yes,
DJ nightlife or whatever the fuck.
Right, and yes, it was something like Venezuelan illegal immigrants dealing drugs for healthcare. It was startlingly close. So, I cannot help but feel that, like, almost like, how did this slip past the writers' room? Like, it's almost as if like again, the manatee ball pit. It's like Canada belittling an elected official, bonus multiplier, faggot, like, and, and then just then cue supercut of this man getting, and I think it speaks to the fact that I don't think he was ever voted by a majority, wasn't he not?
I'm pretty sure he had a minority government both times, and he explicitly said that he would not do an election during COVID, and then I forget the circumstances, but then he did an election during COVID, and they ended up losing seats, which forced them to make a deal with the NDP, which has now resulted in, well, what you've seen for the last 5 years or so. And Mark Carney, who is now the prime minister, was Trudeau's financial advisor for those 5 years, which just makes it so insane. Like, we won't have time to get into all of it, man, but there is legitimately, like, I think people have turned a blind eye to this, partially because they're so busy with their work because they're trying to fucking keep their head above water, but also because people are so ideologically opposed to one another, that this was in a lot of ways like a head in the sand type of election where people just kind of turn to their own party and hope that they would save them, and essentially told the other side to fucking commit and hero, which is, I understand as a political tactic it works, but long term, if you want to stay together as a country, if that is in your best interests, which there is an argument to be made for that, is not exactly the way forward. Like, after the first debate, after the French language debate, they opened up the floor to questions from the media, and anybody that was approved by the debate council or whatever that organization is called, they're appointed by the federal government, but they have a whole process for, like, if you're a journalist or independent or whatever the hell, you go, you get accredited, they do a background check, and they let you ask the question. Well, a bunch of independent media people that are not part of the corporate media, and the same corporate media who has 25% of their wages subsidized by the Canadian government, and also not part of the CBC, went up and asked some very uncomfortable questions, like, what is a woman? Do you think that a woman deserves to have her own space? What do you think about the fact that not a single remains of a child have been found at any of these residential schools, that only years ago you guys were screaming to the fucking high heavens how colonialism is literally worse than Hitler or whatever the fuck they were saying, when in reality they haven't found shit. And the initial school that they actually found this find at, the actual dig, turns out it was a fucking septic field. I just learned about this the other day. It was literally a pile of shit that when they put the whatever ground lidar bullshit they used, it can't discern between bones and messes in the ground. And then they found plans in that school, not within like that school, but that were like tied to that school, that showed that there were plans to build like a whole like line of trenches for fucking sewage. And so, get this, the CBC after that debate said, "Oh, there's a lot of right-wing media groups coming out and asking these questions, that, you know, these groups, they peddle in disinformation and misinformation, and it's so obvious that they do because remains have been found." So after making that claim, luckily the CBC, not being entirely retarded, even though they're like 99% retarded, they do have an ombudsman, which is somebody that oversees the fact checking, and anybody that has a claim against what the CBC has said is more than welcome to write with evidence to show them that what they said was actually a lie. So they did. people wrote en masse and they said, hey, you guys have not found any remains whatsoever, even though you've been pushing this story for God knows how many fucking years. And so the CBC was forced to issue a correction. They didn't do this on the air. They didn't have the anchor apologize. They didn't make it public. They just simply wrote it on their page saying, let me see if I can fucking find it. This is incredible that they actually like said this right here. Let me read this. On April 16th, during a live broadcast following the French language federal election leaders debate on CBC News Network, chief political correspondent Rosemary Barton said, quote, yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places across the country, quote. As CBC News has reported on multiple occasions, what several Indigenous communities across Canada have discovered on the sites of some former residential schools are potential barrier sites or unmarked graves. So there's like 3 modifiers that essentially say maybe somehow, maybe we did kind of not really maybe find these remains. This is the first time they've ever had to cough up to it, and even then, it's like a half-assed statement saying we're gonna still defend the anchor even though we were wrong. So, like, look, they could reject reality for as long as they want. It's only a matter of time until people get so fucking fed up that they take shit into their own hands, and it is not gonna get pretty. I don't want to be doomer-pilled or black-pilled on this, but you're not giving Canadians any other choice. And if you thought what the truckers did was bad, you have no fucking idea what's coming. Like, you have no fucking clue what people will do when they're pushed to their fucking limit. Like, this is absolute levels of, like, insanity, to the point where we have to accept this as a reality. Like, the CBC is beyond biased. They are insanely biased. They were joking at the end of their coverage how, like, oh, haha, it's so good that Mark Carney won because now we get to keep our jobs. Because Pierre Poilievre of the Conservatives was like, I'm going to fucking kibosh the CBC. I'm going to make it residential housing. I can't wait to see families pull up with U-Haul trucks and move into the CBC buildings, which we're going to empty and turn into rental units. Like, he literally said that live on air. So naturally, the CBC are incentivized in their own little way to put their thumb on the scale because they want to keep their fucking jobs in their $1.3 billion budget. Like,
well, you know what? I would like to end on a silver lining of all of this, if you don't mind.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Because a problem in your country is a problem in my country, and I think it's gonna happen. Like, okay, I was having a conversation with a homie of mine about how, like, okay, Americans call 911 more than their grandparents. All right. And there's a weird American thing where, like, it's true. Like, who the fuck are we kidding? And, like, it's weird that, like, multi-generational homes are seen as weird unless you live in, like, the South or the Midwest or outside a major city. All right? Even though that's how things have been since time immemorial.
Yeah.
Which makes the respect for the elderly, like, let's be honest, there hardly is as much boomer hate in China as there is in America. Like, partially because it's built into Asian societies to respect your elders, and, like, you know, even though 20% of Japan is 65 years old or older, the boom, like, I mean, they're not seen as, like, the first generation that actively wanted to do better than their children, like boomers in the US and in Canada do. It's just that 1/5 of the population is elderly, and there are not enough people. First of all, their birth rate is abysmal, and, like, there's a possibility that Japan's population decline will be so fucked up in 10 to 15 years, China could take it without firing a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Just show up with an army, and, like, because part of the deal with America is, like, yeah, you could have armed forces for show, because we're here. Like, why would you need an army if we're here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, surprise. So, like, they're just a burden on the entire social security like thing over there. Um, but like outside of Japan, like in Latin America, there's no real boomer hate, really, because like I mean,
Or
I'm sure
Italy.
for some, right. But notice here in America and in Canada, like we can't, we will. This chapter of history will only be over when the last boomer dies off. I saw a documentary where they like got rid of like smallpox, and like they dealt with the last case of smallpox like ever found in the world, and it was like, science has finally triumphed over this blah 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 blah. But what lies forward in the horizon, who knows? But we must build on the work we have left behind. So we really can't move forward until the last boomer dies off. Like I'm serious. Like because first of all, the boomers voted in Reagan twice, and they were hippies. Remember that. All right? Like the hippies voted in Reagan twice. Ever see the movie SLC Punk?
Sounds familiar.
All right, I greatly recommend it, and not enough people talk about this movie, and it's a fucking incredible thing. And the main character's father is like a boomer yuppie, and he goes on about how like, Dad, you fucking protested the Vietnam War, and you're doing this, and anti-authority, and blah blah blah, and you taught me to think for myself, and blah 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 blah, and you sold out, man. What the fuck? And he goes, "Oh, I didn't sell out. I cashed in."
I've heard that.
You
Yeah.
know. So that being said, I leave you with this, okay? Um, because without boomers, there is no one to watch television. And without television, do you understand how little power the state has? Okay? That being said, rest RIP television 1927 to 2025. Wow, didn't even make it 100 years. Faggots. So, as of writing this, television confirmed to be not Lindy. As of as of
True.
writing this, television has been the most powerful programming tool utilized in history. Passively receiving predetermined content, adhering to a schedule, these turned everyone into children's society, content to watch the spectacle and try to keep it up. The family unit was slowly dismantled under the guise of freedom and independence. And no, I'm not interested in your argument against this because it's wrong and you need to move on. This was an engineered push to destroy any anti-state support structures, but it takes two to tango, and the boomers were more than willing to buy into fantasies that inflated their egos. They didn't need to raise their children. That's what school was for. They didn't need to take care of their children past 18. This is America, and independence is what we worship. I look around at the boomers, and they are a sorry lot. They lived their entire lives as consumer tourists, never investing in anything, never building or growing anything of their own. If they did manage anything, it was to save up for their retirement, although let's be honest, most just cashed in on the housing bubble fueled by the Federal Reserve and those who gained from speculating on it. They don't really have any reason to live except to consume and travel. They end up wasting most of their savings and retirements constantly chasing a lifestyle they can never reach because they can't be young again, and the happiness that was promised to them by all the commercials just isn't there. They continue to spend more and more money to prolong their lives, which they use to just watch more TV, leaving nothing behind for their children or grandchildren. Boomers sit in their nice houses while we scrounge with roommates, and they blame you for the destruction of this world. TV will be gone before the boomers. What a nightmare. Sing a song of violence, of trash and goons and thugs, of homicides and gang wars, of corpses full of slugs. If such atrocious things are not your cup of tea, well, tough. That's all you're getting. Tonight on your TV. Whitepill, thank you for having me on. Buenas noches. Time to go back to screaming at my book.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. It's good to get some excerpts from your upcoming book there, and
It's my pleasure, and I'm glad it very ever so loosely ties to current events.
very so loosely. No, the
Listen,
Canadian stuff is spot on. I love that.
thank you, man. I appreciate that. Listen, I gotta vamoose. Buenas noches. I'll smell you later, man. Be safe.
Take care, brother. Alrighty. Well, it's about time we wrap up here as well. Been streaming for 6.5 hours. Should probably get some sleep at some point. Look, I'm gonna end it off at this point. On this point, rather. Because I don't want to get too ranty. Disappointed with the outcome of the election, but elections are not what federal elections do not dictate your life as nearly as much as the choices that we all make. And regardless of this outcome, whether it's satisfactory or otherwise, the class of people that run this country and elsewhere may seem impossible to overcome or defeat or affect in any way, but at the end of the day, they said the same thing about the Berlin Wall. There's a story about a delegate and a delegate from, I believe, either East or West Germany, who was speaking to a Soviet official, and they were telling them about all the action on the Berlin Wall and how more and more protesters were gathering at the place as the Soviet Union continued to crumble throughout the years. And the Soviet delegate was told by the other that, hey, like, this looks like a real protest movement, and that they should be careful and watch their tone and how they act in that region. And the Soviet delegate simply told him, you don't understand. These things take decades. Change doesn't happen overnight. Things like this are parts of long, winding arcs of history. And then the next thing you know, the next day, the Berlin Wall fell. And even though most people listening to this, myself included, weren't alive for the Berlin Wall to fall, and we never got to see it, and maybe a revolution like that, a revolutionary action like that, isn't something that will ever happen in the coming days, years of Canadian history. There is one thing that that makes me really happy or content with where this leaves us. And as Stain Haynes said about the boomers there, these are an unimpressive class of people. It has never been easier to point the finger at them and to expose them for their bullshit. And conglomerates like the CBC or CTV News or Global Media or any of these giant media corporations that present the news in their own way for one reason or another, they could be easily outdone by a teenager with a webcam or independent podcasts or independent media. So there's always going to be a place for civil disobedience and for people to act outside of what is deemed normal or socially accepted. And so with that, I'll say this. The white pill here is that life goes on. And the white pill here is that so long as you live in this country, there is still lots of opportunity. to take advantage of, to improve yourself, to improve your quality of life, to improve the quality of life of your loved ones. And we are supremely lucky to live in a country like this and to have access to running water, electricity, internet, and all the resources. And yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's difficult to live, and yes, the social fabric is tearing. Yes, there's all these issues. But it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way so long as people collectively, on an individual level at first, but eventually collectively put in an effort and make something of themselves and make something of their own communities. So I encourage whoever's listening to this, first of all, thank you for making it this far, but more so to say that this will not define Canada. This is just yet another year. So what? So Carney wins. Okay, that's fine. By all means. The people will persevere. We have been through worse. It's not the end of the world. And there are much more important things and much more important problems on the horizon that we need to prepare for. And no matter of arguing about politics or who's right or who's wrong or ideology, none of that matters. None of that matters at the end of the day. You're much better off focusing on making yourself a more formidable individual, trying to set an example for the people you love and the people around you. That's a lot more of a fruitful exercise than simply being angry at the way the world is and wishing it was different. And that's as good a place to leave as any. The white pill here is that there's always the possibility for change. And at the end of the day, these people that are in charge and make these decisions that reverberate into our lives in all these various ways, they're not an impressive people. They underestimate the common man at every turn, and they don't understand what they're dealing with. And so when that allows room for people to squeeze through and make something of themselves and impact real change, which I think will certainly happen given enough time. The country will persevere, the people will persevere, because we have to. Otherwise, what else is all this for? And so I'll leave it at that. Thank you to everyone for tuning into the stream. Once again, you can find all my links at bio.link/whitepill. Still banned on Twitter, so keep the socials there. I'll have everything posted then. Thank you again for everyone that listened on this historic election night. And should be back this coming Wednesday, I hope. But we'll see. In any case, have yourselves a great night. And I'll see you next time.